The sunset envelops the village with anxiety, forcing the residents to hurry home. Rumors of a man-eating snake and missing people are spreading panic on the streets. The father, driven by fear, urges his son to take shelter from the approaching darkness. The last steps home seem like an eternity under the weight of an invisible threat. An ancient evil awakens within the house, realizing its monstrous power. The giant serpent remembers two people approaching its lair. A desperate cry for help breaks the silence of the night. The man cries out to the mountain gods in horror, realizing his fate. In the past, the snake did not understand people, but felt their fear and despair. It was this compassion that led him to become who he is today. A sudden intrusion interrupts the meal, but in the attacker's eyes, the snake sees only a shadow of regret. 10 years of care turn to fury when the creator demanded the return of his creation. Memories of innocent affection are mixed with the bitter realization of betrayal. The past comes crashing down on him, and the snake realizes that he has always been just prey for the clan of monks. The first battle made him realize not only his own strength, but also the boundless cruelty of people. The world turns out to be more complex than it seemed, as monks constantly perfect their deadly skills. Each new level of power turns a person into something divine and terrifying. Realizing the threat, the snake decides to go into hiding, since open confrontation with the monks is tantamount to death. A cunning plan is born in his mind, to turn an entire village into his personal farm. Looking at an old drawing, he decides that he needs his own name first. Inspired by an ancient legend, the snake chooses the name Shu Xian, forever linking itself to the fate of people. At night, he finds the perfect place for his undertaking, the sleepy village of Chenjia, unaware of the coming nightmare. The first target is the pig pen, easy prey to satisfy the age-old hunger. He playfully swallows one piglet after another, enjoying the defenselessness of his food. But true hunger demands more, and now the sow disappears into his insatiable mouth. Well-fed and contented, he momentarily forgets his monstrous nature, embarrassed by his own greed. Deciding to rest before leaving, he falls asleep, unaware that his recklessness will cost him his peace of mind. An hour later, his sleep is interrupted by angry cries. Now the whole village knows about the uninvited guest. The humans are close now, and their fury is almost physically palpable, forcing the serpent to act quickly. Escaping from pursuit, he soars upward, realizing that people are much more dangerous than he assumed. From his hiding place, the snake watches the brutal scene, not realizing who the real victim is. Even an innocent piglet senses that the man lying on the ground is a source of pure evil. The sudden resurrection of a dead man turns an ordinary night into the beginning of a bloody nightmare. A mad laughter echoes throughout the area as an ancient and vengeful soul awakens within a strange body. He vows to take revenge on the entire world, unaware that a real monster is watching him. The man underestimates his audience, considering himself the only predator on this night. Horror distorts his face when he finally notices the giant shadow lurking on the ceiling. A terrible guess pierces his mind, but he doesn't even imagine how wrong he is. With his back against the wall, he decides to go all in, unleashing all his hidden power. The ancient artifact in his hands promises either salvation or an even quicker and more painful death. The ancient soul rejoices, for the strength and memory of the past have returned to him. Panic grips the snake. He understands that this force is directed directly at him. The horror of an inglorious death forces him to cast aside all doubts, but the body betrays its new owner, and the ritual turns into agony. Noticing the enemy's weakness, the snake rushes into attack to finish everything with one blow. An invisible blow knocks him back, reminding him that the enemy is still dangerous. Realizing that the battle is lost, he decides to run away, saving his life. But it's too late. Once inside the monster, the man turns its body into a battlefield. He releases all his energy in one last desperate blow. Pain pierces the snake from within, because his prey turned out to be a deadly trap. Within the serpent, he finds the source of its power, the demonic core, the key to ultimate victory. A desperate plea for mercy is drowned out by his determination to destroy the monster once and for all. The snake's body is torn apart from the inside, proving that the most dangerous poison is human malice. Paralyzed and dying, he realizes that his short life has come to a brutal end. With the last breath comes regret, the bitter realization of a fatal mistake that can no longer be corrected. Drunk with newfound power, the man celebrates victory, enjoying the agony of his enemy. But an ancient artifact suddenly goes out of control, ruining his triumphant plans. The commands no longer work, and the vessel that gave him power is now becoming a threat itself. In one moment he loses everything, his strength goes away, and with it the hope of salvation. The dragon's spirit he summoned turns against its master, absorbing the serpent's demonic power. Horror contorts his face as the summoned spirit chooses the monster's side. The dragon, having absorbed demonic blood, turns its rage against its creator. A beam of divine energy falls upon a man who has become a pawn in someone else's game. The monk's life turns to dust, taking with it all his ambitions and anger. Looking at the fading spirit of the dragon, the snake feels for the first time not only pain, but also a strange connection. Time heals wounds, and now yesterday's predator is peacefully dozing, surrounded by its prey. A sudden bite from a piglet brings him back to a reality full of absurd irony. Empty threats fall from his fangs, for now he is more irritated than dangerous. He cannot understand how he survived the fatal blow, since his core was destroyed. The memory of a broken heart flashes in his mind, hinting at the secret of his rebirth. He remembers how he lost the core, the heart of his demonic essence. But in spite of everything, he is alive. And this mystery makes him shudder with horror and curiosity. The answer lies within his own body, where an alien light now glows. This is not just light, but the mind of a defeated enemy that has become a part of himself. Along with reason, he receives divine vision, seeing the world through and through, like a true monk. The new power grants him unprecedented agility, turning hunting and survival into a simple game. His head now contains a whole universe of alien knowledge, secrets, and memories. For the first time in his life, he gains clarity of thought, going beyond simple instinct. Imitating his enemy, he decides to embark on the path of self-improvement. Now he is his own master, because he has the power to launch a new core and begin evolution. In an instant, the body is filled with energy, giving it a second birth. Doubts gnaw at him, because contrary to logic, a new life has begun to emerge within him. Even monsters need rest, for only in sleep is true strength born. Before leaving, he leaves the piglets a playful reminder of who's boss. New knowledge opens the path of cultivation for him, turning the monster into an adept. The world turns out to be full of people just like him, and everyone has their own path to the top. He is only at the beginning of his journey, but already his strength is comparable to that of human masters. Ancient demons from dreams lure him with the promise of unlimited power and might. Driven by a new purpose, he begins his journey to the top, absorbing the power of the world. But great power also has unexpected side effects that change him inside and out. Having shed his old skin, he was reborn, becoming many times stronger than before. The new form frightened and delighted him, because now he was a real predator. However, evolution also brought disappointment, turning the giant into a comically small snake. What he lost in size, he made up for in speed and deadly agility. The new core pulsates inside, threatening to tear it apart from the excess energy. The path to the top requires sacrifice, and for further growth it needs fresh blood. The smell of wild boar makes him hungry, promising easy and satisfying prey. He assesses his opponent with a cool head, realizing that his own strength is much greater. Confident in his superiority, he begins to prepare for the fatal blow. Holding his breath, he waits for the perfect moment to turn the hunter into the hunted. Every centimeter closer to the prey makes the blood run cold. Suddenly the victim turns around, and a primal rage burns in her eyes. Fear grips him, because this beast turns out to be much more terrible than any man. In desperation, he unleashes a new power, turning the earth into a deadly storm. A hail of stones falls on the boar, turning it into a bloody mess. He can't believe that with one thought he turned the mighty beast into dust. But the enemy turned out to be tenacious, and it was necessary to deal the final, decisive blow. The victory came at a high price, and he breathes a sigh of relief after nearly becoming a victim. However, the feeling of danger does not go away, because a whole flock could be hiding somewhere nearby. The first piece of meat awakens something new in him, because this food gives not only satiety, but also strength. Surprise turns to disgust when he realizes he has swallowed something foreign. This is not just a boar, but a demon whose core carries a mortal danger. He hesitates, not knowing what to do with the dangerous discovery, because his knowledge of alchemy is negligible. Natural instincts tell him to simply swallow the prey, but reason warns him of imminent death. Remembering his unique nature, he decides to take a risk and trust his animal instincts. Gathering all his will into a fist, he decides to take a desperate step, ready for any outcome. Swallowing the core proves incredibly difficult, but it's too late to retreat. A pleasant warmth spreads inside him, and he understands that the risk was justified. His body begins to greedily absorb demonic energy, granting him unprecedented strength. He feels that he is standing on the threshold of a new, even more powerful rebirth. The evolution is complete, and now he is not just a snake, but a second-rank creature. The new weapon on his tail evokes in him a childish delight and a feeling of superiority. But his triumph doesn't last long. A random witness turns him into a hunted animal. The man's attack is unexpected and violent, forcing him to retreat. Behind the boy's back, he sees the shadow of a real monster, much more dangerous than himself. Panic makes him run without looking back, because people turned out to be more terrible than any demons. News of him spreads throughout the village, turning him from a hunter into the main target. Hidden in the depths of the forest, he tries to comprehend how fragile his new life is. Shame for his own cowardice ignites in him the determination to become stronger at any cost. He sets out to find the mountain gods to find true strength and peace in this new home. In search of power, he comes to the mountain god, not knowing that he is entering forbidden territory. But thoughts of eternal hunger make him forget his goal as soon as he sees the rich offerings. Unable to resist, he pounces on the food, deciding that the gods will forgive him this little weakness. Having had his fill, he again turns to God with a desperate plea for strength and protection. Suddenly the shadows of people fill the temple, and the smell of enemies brings him back to the cruel reality. Realizing that he is trapped, the snake looks for an escape route before he is discovered. But instead of hunting him, he sees the priest mocking the soul of an innocent child. A desperate mother is ready to sacrifice herself to save her son from eternal slavery. In horror, he recognizes in the priest the very man who left his companion to die. Now he understands that real monsters are not born as snakes, but wear human faces. The priest's cruelty knows no bounds, and he revels in his power over a defenseless woman. In an instant, he ends her life, getting rid of an unnecessary witness. Over the body of his victim, he speaks words full of madness and self-satisfaction. But even in the face of death, she did not give up, vowing to take revenge on him from the grave. Hiding, the snake decides it's time to put an end to this farce and enjoy his meal. An awkward movement gives him away, and the silence of the temple explodes with the sound of a falling apple. The woman, now a spirit, rushes to the altar of the mountain god in her last hope. Her pleas for help are directed to a statue, behind which a real monster is lurking. Seeing him, she screams in horror, because her savior turned out to be another nightmare. Rage distorts the priest's face, not understanding who dared to invade his domain. A cry of horror breaks the silence, and the frightened servants rush into the temple. In a panic, he screams about a monster, but the servants see only an empty hall and a shadow behind the statue. Hearing about the Snakecatcher clan, he realizes that he has entered the lair of his worst enemies. The order is given to bring him the monster's head, and the servants go to fulfill the master's will without hesitation. The footsteps draw closer, and fear gives way to determination. He can't just wait for his death. He decides to act first, and the sudden attack leaves one of the servants in shock. The servants retreat in horror, but their master only mocks their fear of the little snake. The priest steps forward, his hands filled with power, ready to crush any enemy. The shockwave throws the servants back, and the snake realizes that he is facing an incredibly powerful opponent. He realizes that his only chance to survive is to eliminate the priest before he is surrounded. He launches a final attack, because survival requires sacrifice. Death itself is reflected in his eyes, turning him into a shadow from nightmares. Even the mighty priest flees in terror, threatening terrible revenge from the entire clan. He understands that the fugitive will bring a real army with him, and he must be stopped. With one deadly blow of his tail, he ends the escape, sealing the temple's secret forever. Victory leaves a bitter taste, because in order to survive, he had to kill again. He looks at the statue with apprehension, suspecting that he has angered the god by stealing his offerings. In a panic, he tries to put everything back in its place, performing an absurd ritual of appeasement. In despair, he offers the god a bloody gift, hoping to atone for his guilt and hunger. Instead of anger, he receives divine blessing, for his path to greatness has only just begun. Having received the blessing, he returns to the mountains to continue his journey to the top. But a week of meditation bears no fruit, and he feels stuck in one place. Small prey no longer provides strength, and hunger pushes him to search for something larger. Despair grows with each passing day, because instead of wild boars, he only comes across useless small fry. Tormented by hunger, he is ready to eat even a watermelon, just to quench his animal thirst. Suddenly he notices two people, and their rich catch awakens a predatory interest in him. He recognizes the boy as an old acquaintance, and curiosity is mixed with anxiety. For a moment their eyes meet, and the snake freezes, afraid that his disguise has been revealed. The boy's strange behavior confuses him, forcing him to lie low in anticipation. He can't believe his eyes when a boy leaves a basket of fish for him as an offering. The boy's words are full of sincerity, and he offers the snake a gift, unaware of its true nature. The snake cannot believe his eyes, because for the first time a man offers him food, and not death. Suspicion fights with hunger, but the sight of fresh fish makes him cast aside all doubts. The very first piece dispels all fears, and he accepts this unexpected gift with pleasure. He forgets about everything in the world, reveling in the taste of fish and a strange feeling of gratitude. But the idyll is interrupted by the appearance of a mysterious figure, whose silhouette carries a threat. A direct question about the black snake makes the boy's heart freeze with fear. Despite the threat, he decides to lie to protect his new and strange friend. The strangers don't believe him, and their patience wears thin, turning curiosity into hidden rage. A sudden movement in the mountains distracts them, and now their gaze is directed straight into the serpent's lair. In desperation, the boy screams, trying to divert attention and give the snake a chance to escape. Rumors of a man-eating snake lead strangers to believe their target is lurking in the river. They give chase, leaving the boy bewildered by their blind fury. The snake is furious at the stupidity of people, not understanding why the boy is risking himself for him. He decides to run away, because staying here means condemning himself to certain death. A new refuge awaits him on the other side, in the mountains, where he hopes to find peace. Thoughts of the coming winter and the difficulties of cultivation cloud his path to salvation. Suddenly, a real nightmare rises from the depths of the river, ready to swallow him whole. He realizes that he has found the true monster that people have been hunting. But the wounded eel, mistaking him for an enemy, unleashes upon him all its deadly fury. He faces a choice: eat the giant and evolve, or become its food. Fear turns out to be stronger than hunger, and he decides to run away, because this enemy is too tough for him. But the river monster's jaws snap shut, turning the river into a death trap. Gasping for breath, he realizes that his only chance of salvation is to break through the enemy's belly. Despair awakens new strength in him, and he launches a final decisive attack. Suddenly the water turns to fire, and he finds himself in a fiery hell beneath the river's surface. The flames consume him, and he cannot understand how he became trapped in his own mind. He realizes that this is an illusion created by the poisonous slime of the river monster. In the heart of the nightmare, he finds peace by gathering all his energy into one point. An explosion of power tears the illusion apart, and he rises to new heights, becoming one with the dragon's spirit. Waking up from the illusion, he delightedly realizes that his power has exceeded all expectations. The river turns red, and he is the only survivor of this bloody massacre. He realizes that his tail has become a deadly weapon, capable of crushing any enemy. But euphoria gives way to caution, because he understands that the victory was just a lucky coincidence. The eel's massive carcass will provide him with food for months, and its core promises a new breakthrough in strength. Among the remains he finds the sign of the snake-catcher clan, and a terrible guess pierces his mind. Looking at the core, he makes an oath to the fallen enemy that his power will not be wasted. But swallowing the core proves to be no easy task, and his ambitions collide with harsh reality. Loaded with loot, he heads into the mountains to absorb the new power in solitude. Meanwhile, his enemies pick up the trail, and now they know how he managed to slip away. The truth is revealed, but this only fuels their insatiable thirst for pursuit. Ahead lies a new territory, guarded by an ancient beast that they dare not disturb. Rumors of the power of the serpent that swallowed the priceless pill kindle greed in their hearts. This hunt ceases to be a duty, turning into a golden ticket to a new life. But ambition gives way to caution, forcing them to wait for the perfect moment. They decide to make winter their ally, patiently waiting for the mountain's guardian to fall asleep. While the hunters make plans, the serpent finds refuge, preparing to turn months of peace into years of strength. 2 months pass in solitude, but the path to power proves slow and difficult. Despite his disappointment, his body changes, and the new spikes on his tail give him hope. A sudden surge of energy heralds a breakthrough, promising him long-awaited power. Winter turns hunting into torture, forcing him to think about hibernation until better times. But he can only dream of peace, because a squad of hunters is already on his trail, thirsty for a reward. Specially trained dogs easily pick up the scent, leaving him no chance to escape. They are followed by simple peasants, hoping to snatch their share of fame and wealth. One of them dreams of a better future for his son, not realizing that this hunt could be his last. A sudden bark breaks the silence. The dogs have found what they have been looking for so long. The trail leads them straight to the cave, and the hunters are confident that their prey is cornered. At his most vulnerable moment, he realizes that his hideout has been exposed, and there is nowhere left to run. Anticipating a rich catch, the leader of the hunters already sees not only the snake, but also its offspring. The doubts of one of them are drowned in the cold confidence of the leader, who knows that they are on the right path. The order has been given, and now someone's life will become a bargaining chip in this hunt. He breathes a sigh of relief, because his cunning plan with the bait worked perfectly. Hope for salvation struggles with fear, because instinct tells us that the danger has not yet passed. Greed blinds them, and for a greater reward, they are ready to get rid of unnecessary witnesses. The unsuspecting hunters leave while their leaders prepare for the final assault. One of them, confident in his strength, decides to challenge the ancient guardian of the mountain alone. Having overheard their conversation, he understands that human cruelty is more terrible than any beast. His cover is blown, and he is now trapped between 2 deadly threats. In desperation, a mad plan is born, to pit enemies against each other and use their battle for their own rise. He understands that he has fallen into a deadly trap, where any wrong step will lead to inevitable death. In their eyes, he is just a pawn, and hope for salvation is fading with every second. Hiding, he decides to wait, because chaos is his only chance of survival. The awakened bear unleashes its fury on the unsuspecting hunters. In panic, they flee, seeking salvation from those who led them to this certain death. Their pleas for help are met with the icy contempt of the cultivators. They look down on the dying because their lives are not worth a penny. Realizing they have been betrayed, the hunters see the cultivators as true monsters. In the midst of chaos, he finds a treasure whose scent promises him healing and new strength. The battle rages on, and one of the cultivators finds themselves on the brink of death. The death of their allies does not affect them, because for them it is just part of the plan to catch the snake. A cold order puts an end to their alliance, turning their partner into the next victim. An ally turns into an enemy, and the snow is stained with the blood of those who trusted him. In an instant, the battlefield falls silent, strewn with the bodies of friends and foes. Left alone with the beast's fury, he realizes that he has been betrayed. With an icy grin, he leaves his brother to be torn apart by the monster. He understands that he was just a pawn in someone else's game, and his rage knows no bounds. The true purpose has been revealed. This hunt was merely a pretext for cold-blooded murder. The traitor's taunts sound louder than the beast's roar, bringing imminent death closer. In a last desperate act, he decides to take the enemy with him, creating a fiery hell. Watching the beast's agony, he calmly sums up, because his plan worked perfectly. The chaos subsides and a new predator emerges from the cave, ready to claim the mountain for its own. The treasures he finds promise him limitless power, but his hunger demands immediate satisfaction. He hides the pills until a better moment, because his instinct tells him that the real battle is still ahead. The scent of blood attracts new prey, and he gladly accepts the challenge of a hungry pack of wolves. With one blow he proves his superiority, turning hunters into defenseless victims. But even a whole flock is not enough to satisfy his growing appetite. The hunger does not go away, and he realizes that the wolves were just an appetizer before the main course. The cause of everything turns out to be a wounded bear, whose aura overshadows everything around. He sees his enemy's wounds as an opportunity, because victory over him promises him a new level of power. An unknown thirst takes hold of him, and the desire to devour the demon becomes stronger than the instinct of self-preservation. He realizes that the enemy is much stronger, but retreating means remaining weak forever. Gathering his will into a fist, he convinces himself that cunning and intelligence will overcome brute force. With a surprise attack, he deprives the giant of sight, turning his advantage into a weakness. A roar of pain and rage shakes the mountains, but now the bear has become blind and helpless. He exploits the enemy's blindness, turning the battle into a deadly dance on the brink of life and death. But the strength is running out, and the body begins to fail under the influence of the powerful pill. In desperation, he uses his last treasure to reignite the life that is fading within him. With renewed strength, he launches a final attack, only to heal after victory. The bear does not understand where such invincible power comes from in the small body of a snake. Pain breaks his bones, but the will to win proves stronger than his death throes. In a last desperate lunge, he seizes his enemy's throat, putting all his fury into one bite. He waits patiently for the poison and wounds to do their work, because the giant beast is already doomed. But the wait is too painful, and he decides to resort to brute force to speed up the ending. Like a battering ram, he brings down a tree trunk on the enemy, turning his head into a bloody mess. Victory has been won, but the price for it is deep wounds and almost complete exhaustion. Before he can catch his breath, he sees the wolves returning to take his precious prey. Realizing that his strength is running out, he decides to take one last desperate step, to swallow the pill. The snow turns red with blood, and he is left alone, surrounded by the bodies of those who dared to challenge him. He knows that the hunters will soon return here, and he needs to find a safe shelter for his treasure. Looking at the corpses of people, he thinks about his past life, trying to understand who he was before reincarnation. In the frozen body, he recognizes the father of that very child, and a strange feeling pierces his heart. The devotion of dogs who remain with their owner until their last breath seems incomprehensible to him. He does not understand this sacrifice, because in his world only the strongest survives. Through snow and pain he drags his prey, because in this battle the most insidious one has won. Having found the perfect refuge, he prepares to transform the enemy's flesh into his new power. But the very first piece of meat awakens not only his hunger, but also the ancient artifact. A familiar energy fills him, and he realizes that his path to power is accelerating. Breaking through to the third rank grants him not only strength, but also a new, deadly weapon on his tail. Dreams of unlimited power intoxicate him, and he already sees himself as the invincible king of the mountain. 3 months later, spring brings with it not only warmth, but also a premonition of new battles. The winter sleep is over, and he awakens, feeling how he has grown and strengthened during the months of rest. New knowledge leads him to prey, turning the first spring hunt into a brutal training session. Like a shadow, he overtakes his victim, proving that his power has not faded, but was only biding its time. Suddenly, a strange wisdom awakens within him, forcing him to spare the female for the sake of future balance. He realizes that to hunt forever, he must become a keeper, not a mindless destroyer. The mountain becomes his personal possession, and he enthusiastically counts his living treasures. But simple survival no longer entices him, for his soul yearns for true power. Memories of past battles call him back to the people, promising new challenges and strength. Spring awakens not only hunger, but also ancient instincts, becoming a new challenge. His new will is immediately tested when nature tries to take over reason. With cold pride he rejects her, for his path to power does not tolerate inferior beings. He understands that cultivation has changed him forever, ridding him of his primitive instincts. Deep in the cave he finds his true goal, an ancient tree that grants power. The memories of another snake ignite in him greed and hope for an unprecedented breakthrough. A new power beckons him with the promise of magic, and he is ready to do anything to pluck the coveted fruit. But his solitude is disturbed by two people, and their appearance desecrates the place that is sacred to him. A familiar voice makes his heart skip a beat, because his worst enemies have come to his lair. A new threat stands near the traitor, and its power can be felt even from a distance. Their conversation reveals their plans, and he realizes that he has a chance to take possession of the treasure. They are confident of their victory, unaware that they are being watched by someone who is ready to die for this place. Their target is not just a snake, but an ancient king, and they have a special weapon in store for him. Rage fights fear, because to retreat means to lose the chance for unlimited power. Doubts gnaw at him, because he remembers how those who were much stronger than him fell. The sudden attack is disorienting, and a foul smell fills his lair with despair. He decides to lie low, because time is his main ally in the battle against deadly weapons. They are confident of their victory, because instinct tells them that their victim will not miss their chance. The true king emerges from the shadows, ready to defend his legacy to his last breath. He understands that he was just a pawn in their game, and all their words were lies. The mystery of his past deepens, but now there's more at stake. A sudden glance makes him freeze, as he realizes that his cover has been blown. From the depths emerges the true king, his gaze filled with wisdom and ancient fury. He realizes that he was only an imposter, and the real ruler was hiding in the shadows all this time. The Battle of the Titans begins, and he watches in horror as two invincible forces clash. Doubts gnaw at him, because even the mighty king seems defenseless in the face of the hunters. The woman uses an ancient artifact, and its power falls upon the king, shaking the very earth. The sound wave paralyzes the giant, making it an easy target for deadly attacks. Hundreds of magical darts pierce his body, but cannot penetrate his indestructible scales. Even in the face of defeat, she sees him as nothing more than raw material for future armor. The combined attack paralyzes the king, and it seems his fate is sealed. He faces a choice: save the king and miss his chance, or let him die and take his place. A sudden movement at the tree's roots makes him realize that there is a third player in this battle. While the two fight, the third steals the treasure, using the other person's fight for his own purposes. But his triumph is interrupted by the rage of the serpent, ready to tear apart anyone who encroaches on his legacy. In horror, he tries to break free, but the tree's roots have already become a part of him. Unable to let go of the treasure, he becomes easy prey for the enraged serpent. In an instant, it consumes both the thief and the tree he stole, but the price is too high. He spits out the remains, realizing that in this game he is only a pawn in the hands of unknown forces. The tree's energy awakens an ancient artifact within him, and he reaches a new level of power. He realizes that he has become a conductor for the energy that man has put into the leaves of the tree. Without wasting a second, he grabs the root and disappears, because now he is the main target in this hunt. The battle is over, but the real goal still awaits its victors. Rage turns to triumph when they realize their treasure has been stolen. Accusations are tearing apart their fragile alliance, and suspicion is poisoning the air. She desperately denies guilt, but he sees in her words only an attempt to deceive. The threat of calling a repairman puts her on the brink of an abyss, leaving no room for error. The last chance for reconciliation is gone, and now their fate will be decided by the sect. A third force intervenes in their deadly game, and its appearance changes everything. The older brother reveals a secret mission, and now everyone is under suspicion. The thief was clever, but he left an invisible trail that would lead them straight to their target. A new hunt begins, and now their combined might will fall upon the daring thief. In horror, he realizes that he is facing a sixth-stage hunter, whose level of power is beyond his comprehension. But the scent of treasure drowns out his fear, and he decides to risk everything for a chance at power. The scent of ripe fruit gives it away, and now the hunters know where their real target is hiding. A sudden attack from underground takes them by surprise, but the experienced hunter is ready for any threat. Without wasting a second, he rushes towards the fruit, because this is his only chance for salvation. He summons an ancient artifact to help him digest the fruit's scorching power. But his plan falls apart when the hunter easily interrupts his escape. The master's ancient weapon proves stronger than any magic, leaving him no chance of escape. The hunter's rage knows no bounds, and he unleashes all his deadly might on the thief. He understands that if he doesn't digest the fruit now, then they are both doomed to certain death. The ancient artifact responds to his call, breathing into him a stream of primordial energy. Golden energy reshapes his body, granting him unprecedented power and the luxury of a new form. Shedding his old skin, he is reborn, and a blast of power throws the hunter away. In horror, the hunter realizes that all this time he was chasing not a man, but a monster. He looks at the enemy with contempt, because he was too stupid to figure out his cunning plan. Greed flashes in his eyes because now the snake is not just prey, but a priceless trophy. A new strength fills him with confidence, and now he knows that he can escape from this trap. But the hunter is not ready to retreat, and a weapon capable of stopping any animal appears in his hands. In horror, he realizes that he is facing not just a magician, but the owner of a deadly weapon. The weapon carries a crushing pressure, turning him into a defenseless reed in the face of the storm. The fear of death forces him to cast aside all doubts and attack in response. But his attack is broken by the indestructible defense of the magical weapon. The hunter's arrogance knows no bounds, for he is confident of his easy victory. Realizing that brute force is useless, he decides to attack the enemy's weakest point, the mind. But the hunter's mind proves to be as indestructible a fortress as his weapon. Having failed in a mental attack, he becomes an easy target for a crushing blow. Confident of his victory, he continues the attack, unaware that he has trapped himself. Rage clouds his eyes and he rushes in pursuit, not noticing how the ground is slipping away from under his feet. Despair and fatigue overcome him as this pursuit turns into a humiliating flight. In a final act of rage, he uses all his energy to catch up with the thief who has become his obsession. The stolen power calms within, but the body is too weak to withstand the hunter's fury. Running away is not an option, and in desperation a plan is born. Because the enemy has one fatal weakness, he decides to pretend to be the victim, luring the overconfident hunter into his deadly trap. The hunter sees only agony in this, already anticipating how he will open it and take his treasure. Confident of victory, he rushes forward, unaware that he himself is heading to the scaffold. His deadly blade leaves no scratch, and confidence is replaced by chilling horror. His weapon doesn't withstand the second blow, shattering into pieces and leaving him unarmed. Rage clouds his vision and he calls upon his most powerful weapon, forgetting about mercy. The ghostly blade rushes towards its target, promising a quick and glorious death to the rebellious beast. But in an instant his world collapses when the snake catches his unbreakable blade in its teeth. The indestructible blade proves powerless, and the hunter's confidence is replaced by chilling horror. He falls, defeated, unaware that his enemy has spent the last of his strength on this block. A demonic aura envelops the snake, and the hunter realizes that he has encountered a true monster. Instinct screams at him to run, but his exhausted body refuses to obey, making him easy prey. In a last desperate lunge, the snake collapses the cave's roof, cutting off the hunter's escape route. The shed skin becomes a living trap, and the hunter finds himself in a sticky, indestructible cocoon. He looks down on his victim, because now it is in his power to decide who lives and who dies. The hunter's dying cry echoes throughout the area, and his comrades cannot believe their ears. What runs out of the cave is not a hunter, but a beast maddened with terror, screaming about the birth of a dragon. He grabs his companion and runs without looking back, because now their only goal is to survive. Panic grips them and they run, not knowing what awaits them ahead. He realizes that he has missed his chance, and now he will have to fight for his life. Hope for salvation flares up in their hearts, because the exit is already so close. But the path to freedom is blocked by a shadow whose eyes burn with a thirst for revenge. The king's gaze paralyzes them, and a deadly poison falls upon the unsuspecting fugitives. He realizes with horror that he has made a fatal mistake by underestimating the king's true strength. In despair, he seeks salvation in a pill, but the shadow of death is already hanging over him. Last hope is the highest spiritual treasure that can turn the tide of battle. But even his speed cannot compare to the fury of the king, ready to tear him to pieces. In a last desperate effort, he tears out his own thorn, turning it into a golden spear. The golden spear pierces the flesh, cutting short the hunter's life in arrogance. The final blow proves fatal, and the hunter's world shatters into pieces. The enemy is defeated, but instinct tells you to cover up all traces of your crime. He destroys the body with bitterness, regretting the lost thorn that became the price of survival. Hunger drowns out all thoughts, and he decides that the flesh of the enemy is the best medicine for wounds. In the enemy's bag, he finds something more than just a trophy, a key to new knowledge. A mysterious whisper from the depths of his consciousness awakens long-forgotten nightmares in him. The dying king becomes a catalyst, and the fragments of his past life begin to come together to form a coherent picture. Memories take him back to the past, where he was just one of many thirsting for power. The tragic battle for the tree's fruit awakens in him the memory of blood, death, and the first step towards rebirth. A loud sound made everyone freeze, and the old king appeared to put an end to the battle. In a final act of mercy, he gives him the fruit, and this gift changes his destiny forever. He recalls that snakes are cruel creatures, willing to kill to survive. But in the eyes of the dying king, he sees only inexplicable tenderness, not coldness. The king's death fills his heart with a quiet sadness that he cannot understand. This sadness turns into hatred, and he vows to avenge the death of his savior. He erects a monument to the king, hoping that in the next life he will acquire a human form. Now he understands that all his abilities are a legacy that he must protect. The hunters are already close, and he decides to leave this place, which has become sacred for him. Among the bodies, he finds the one who escaped, and understands that her last breath will bring new enemies here. He decides to leave the dangerous place, but the woman's body seems suspicious to him. Greed overcomes fear, and he decides to search her for valuables. Memories of the traitor make him think about the real puppeteer. A snake suddenly appears, interrupting his thoughts, but behaves too strangely. The trap snaps shut, and he realizes that he has become a pawn in someone else's deadly game. Hiding, the real enemy revels in his victory and vows to avenge his family. He desecrates the graves of the fallen, and his hatred knows no bounds. His true goal is not just revenge, but the complete destruction of the clan and its followers. To carry out his plan, he stages a whole performance, turning himself into a victim. Half an hour later, reinforcements arrive, and now the trap is ready to snap shut. Victory for some turns into defeat for others, and the mentor's rage knows no bounds. The clan leader is angry, because the loss of 2 students is a blow to his reputation and power. Meanwhile, the snake returns to its shelter, confident that it is now safe. He is happy to see that the tree he stole has taken root and is recovering. In the enemy's bag, he finds treasures that will last him for many months of training. But the real treasure turns out to be a book full of ancient and deadly techniques. He finds in it a description of a technique that can turn his body into a living flame. Ancient knowledge opens his eyes to his true potential, because even when weak, he can become invincible. The book teaches him to control the 5 elements, transforming him from a simple snake into a true magician. A month of training turns him into a deadly weapon, and his body becomes stronger and more dangerous. The new spikes give him speed that ordinary hunters can only dream of. Hunger after training pushes him to search for easy prey to test his new strength. The very first use of fire technique proves that he has become more deadly than any hunter. The tracks of wolves disturb his peace, but he does not see them as a worthy opponent. Suddenly, a moonwolf emerges from the shadows, and its aura tells us that it is not just a beast, but a real monster. He accepts the challenge, and his magical weapon is ready to subdue even the Lord of the Wolves. An unbreakable grip binds the wolf, and his rage is shattered by boundless strength. In short, he brings the mighty beast to its knees, proving who is the real king here. The defeated enemy becomes his first pawn in the game for power over this mountain. He realizes that true strength lies not in killing, but in submission, and finds a new, more brutal way to train. Riding on his new servant, he sets out in pursuit of power over the entire mountain. A new world opens up before him, full of easy prey and limitless possibilities. His solitude is interrupted by a mysterious white snake whose scent seems vaguely familiar. He sees her as only a weak creature, unaware of her true nature and connection with him. A strange sense of duty compels him to take her under his protection, despite her wildness. The wolf's roar frightens her, and he attacks his servant with fury, defending his find. He offers the wolf a deal, promising freedom in exchange for unquestioning obedience. From that day on, the wolf becomes his eyes and ears, patrolling the mountain in search of enemies. He gives his old lair to the white snake, turning it into a new sacred abode. He decides to train her to become a loyal guardian of the tree, not knowing who he is actually taming. Far from the lair, the chase continues, as the survivor was unable to describe the true horror. Rumors of a dragon embryo sow doubt, as even the strongest cannot believe such a thing. An ancient artifact shows the way, and now there is no escape from the ruthless hunters. The order has been given, and now the entire mountain turns into a death trap for one serpent. In the misty forest, he senses the energy of the snake, but does not know that it is just bait. A sudden attack interrupts his search, and he finds himself surrounded by ghostly wolves. The scent of dragon and snake mingles, and he realizes he has encountered an unprecedented monster. He easily defeats the Wolf Lord, as his own power is fueled by darkness. A bolt of lightning strikes the flock, turning the forest clearing into ashes. The wounded animal tries to escape, but no one has ever escaped this hunter alive. The chase takes him to a cliff, and he is confident that he has cornered his prey. A final bolt of lightning ends the wolf's life, and its dying cry echoes across the mountains. The cry reaches his ears and he understands that the ruthless hunters are already here. Leaving the most valuable thing under protection, he decides to lead the threat away from his lair. A new player appears at the top of the cliff, and his oppressive aura changes the rules of the game. The hunter decides to deal with the bait first, not knowing that his mentor is already close. The sudden flight confuses him, forcing him to act more cautiously and expect a catch. The hunter's cunning plan seems like child's play to him, because he is confident of his crushing superiority. He understands that this is not a youth in front of him, but an experienced warrior, and this means that there is nowhere to expect help from. Using his new power, he dives underground, turning the chase into a deadly game of cat and mouse. The hunter's rage knows no bounds, and he unleashes all his might on the fugitive. A blast of lightning shakes the earth, but he only grins, for his own magic is much stronger. He continues his chase underground, turning into a ghost that cannot be caught. His speed and cunning leave the hunter no chance of winning. Suddenly he turns around, and now the hunter becomes the hunted. In desperation, the hunter uses his most powerful technique, hoping to incinerate the insolent man. But he doesn't even think about dodging, because his true goal is not victory, but his brother's bag. He survives the explosion, protected by a mysterious artifact, and is ready to celebrate victory. But instead of a plea for mercy, he sees in the serpent's eyes only fiery rage and a thirst for revenge. He realizes that his defenses have weakened, and now he is left alone with the monster he himself created. A fiery flame falls upon the hunter, and his dying cry becomes a hymn of new strength. Victory brings him not only trophies, but also a faithful guardian for his new treasure. He looks down on his defeated enemy, as the hunter's naivety was the cause of his death. The cry for help goes unanswered, and the mentor arrives too late to save his student. He realizes that he has missed his chance, and now he will have to run from the wrath of a true master. Wounded but not broken, he decides to retreat to heal his wounds and return for the monster's head. Guilt mixes with rage, and now this hunt becomes a matter of honor for him. The aura of a supreme master envelops him, and he realizes that he is facing a force capable of grinding him into dust. The instinct for self-preservation takes over, and he decides to flee, because open combat is tantamount to suicide. His unexpected escape only fuels the mentor's passion, turning the hunt into a personal vendetta. His earth magic proves powerless, as the granite rock blocks any escape. The hunter is already close, and the only way out is to run up towards danger. The chase turns into a deadly race, where every moment could be the last. A sudden rockfall takes him by surprise, and he realizes that he has fallen into an ingenious trap. Like a titan, he can hold tons of stones on himself, but even his strength is not limitless. He realizes with horror that he has become a victim of his own self-confidence and underestimated the enemy. Half an hour later, he is still under the rubble, and his rage is giving way to cold despair. He cannot understand how an ordinary stone can contain his indestructible power. In a rage, he swears revenge, because his pride has been trampled by some insignificant animal. Once freed, he finds only the remains of the pill, but even they promise him a new level of power. The period of laying the foundations has begun, and an ancient power awakens, promising a clash of the titans. The ancient technology exacts a terrible price, but the thirst for revenge drowns out the instinct for self-preservation. Like a god, he rains down his wrath from the heavens, vowing to incinerate his enemy. He realizes with horror that he is faced with a force equal to his own, and that flight is the only way out. An invisible grip pulls him back into the arms of certain death, leaving no chance for salvation. The enemy turns out to be not just strong, but has an absorbing power, turning him into a defenseless victim. He is ready to die, but not to give up his treasure, because it is the key to his future. In a last desperate lunge, he throws down his sharpest weapon, hoping for a miracle. The enemy's confidence cracks when his impenetrable defense can no longer withstand the onslaught. In an instant, his world collapses as a golden spike pierces his barrier, bringing death with it. The water shield gives him a moment's respite, and he starts running again. He swims towards the temple, realizing that this is his only chance for salvation. The hunter corners him, confident that he won't escape this time. He cowers in a corner, hoping that the mountain god will hear his prayers and intervene. In desperation, the hunter decides to burn the temple to the ground to smoke out his prey. But instead of a serpent, a shadow emerges from the fire, whose wrath is capable of incinerating the earth itself. He falls to his knees, mistaking the shadow for the legendary god, and his arrogance turns to horror. While fleeing, he encounters his student, who arrived too late. A sudden blow throws the student back, and he realizes that he has become a bargaining chip. The shadow unleashes all its power on him, because the life of a mentor is more valuable than the life of a student. The soul of the student leaves the body, becoming only a pawn in the hands of a merciless god. The mentor runs, realizing that in this wilderness he will not find a worthy opponent. His heart is breaking with pain, but he cannot let his student's soul go away just like that. Even after death, the student's shadow continues to haunt him, giving him no peace. The shadow finds a new body, and now the god has a faithful servant to carry out his will. He breathes a sigh of relief because his risky plan worked and he survived. But his peace is disturbed by a shadow whose gaze carries not life, but cold emptiness. Suddenly the corpse comes to life and he realizes that he is faced with something more than just death. A ghost stands in his way, its fiery aura promising to incinerate anyone who dares to pass. He thanks God for saving him, not knowing that he has witnessed the birth of a new nightmare. The wrath of God falls upon him because he dared to interfere with his sacred vengeance. He tries to offer his services, but God sees him only as an obstacle on the path to revenge. The threat of eternal damnation forces him to submit, because he has no other choice. God demands a new body for himself, young and strong to continue his bloody path. Without wasting a second, he sets out to search, because his own life depends on it. Meanwhile, the god's soul begins to fade, and he seeks a temporary refuge so as not to disappear. In despair, he enters the body of a mouse, but even in it he feels humiliated and insulted. He recalls how, 100 years ago, he hid in a statue, deceiving the great clans and absorbing their faith. The faith of the people gave him divine power, but everything changed with the appearance of one snake. Now his power is absorbed and his soul is trapped in the body of a mouse, and he desires only one thing: revenge. He remembers how the serpent absorbed not only his power, but also the soul of the first god. All his years of preparation went down the drain when the serpent burned his statue and the desired body. Trapped in the body of a mouse, he vows revenge, his pride trampled and his strength lost. Under pressure from God, he sets out on a search because his own life depends on it. The very first discovery turns out to be useless, and despair begins to take hold of him. A sudden noise catches his attention, and he realizes he has found something unusual. He discovers a demonic dog digging up a grave and his heart sinks in terror. The powerful energy emanating from the dog suggests that this is not just a beast, but a real monster. A perfect body emerges from the grave, young, strong, and ready to become a new vessel for the god. But at the moment of triumph, he feels someone's gaze on him, and realizes that his prey has attracted a new predator. The demon dog notices him, and now he himself becomes prey in this game. The cry for help is drowned out in the night, because no one will help him here. He realizes with delight that he has found not just a body, but an intelligent monster, ideal in every way. Like a shadow, he stalks his prey, ready to make it his new shell. But the dog turns out to be not so simple, and his attack forces even the god to retreat. Pleas for mercy are drowned in his determination, for this dog is the perfect vessel for revenge. Time is running out, and the mouse's body begins to disintegrate, threatening to devour his soul. In despair, he returns to the ruins to report his discovery to God. He proudly presents his spoils, confident that he has earned forgiveness. But the wrath of God falls upon him, because he brought him not a sacrifice, but a new master. There is no more time, and the god decides to enter the dog before his soul evaporates. He begins to consume, confident that the snake's mind will not be able to resist him. But the serpent's unbreakable will tears him apart, turning the absorption into agony. He cannot understand where a simple snake gets such strength, capable of resisting a god. Suddenly he feels a familiar energy and realizes that the snake is not alone. In a last attempt, he decides to possess a dog, as this is his only chance of survival. The demonic invasion defiles the dog's body, turning him into a puppet in the hands of a god. He recalls how he himself once absorbed a demon to gain power and immortality. In his new body, he feels a surge of strength and is ready to subjugate anyone who stands in his way. But his triumph is interrupted by the snake's escape, and now the chase begins with a new, even greater fury. A powerful demon offers him to become a disciple, seeing in him not a victim, but a kindred spirit. The arrogant proposal puts him in his place, because before him is not a god, but a heavenly demon. The bitter truth hits him. He worshipped not a god, but an impostor hiding in his shadow. Rage clouds his eyes because all his faith and hope turned out to be a cruel deception. The demon only laughs in response, because for him there is no hell or retribution for what he did. The new ally turns out to be an impudent invader, and now he will have to share his lair. The demon's taunts hit the patient, and he decides to prove that he no longer needs protection. He understands that the demon is weak, and a cunning plan to use it is born in his head. His new servant proves his loyalty by bringing him his first tribute as a sign of respect. The servant's betrayal fuels his rage, as his authority and power are called into question. The wolf's insolence crosses all boundaries, desecrating a place sacred to him. A flash of rage proves who is the real master here, and who is just a servant. The demon teaches a harsh lesson, reminding that disobedience is punishable by pain. The demon's taunts touch a raw nerve, but the serpent is not ready to admit his defeat. Memories of past humiliation become the main weapon in the clutches of a cruel teacher. The cruel game continues, and he revels in his power over the helpless student. While he plays his games, true power awakens in another, threatening his plans. The demon's possessive instinct makes him jealously guard his new toy. While sorting through the trophies, he finds the key to new power, not noticing the envious glance behind his back. The demon's greed flares up with renewed vigor, for the soul stone is a treasure worth killing for. His feigned indifference betrays his joyfully wagging tail, sowing the seeds of doubt. While he trains, she delves into the forgotten arts of alchemy, finding her own path to power. The memory of a powerful enemy fuels his ambitions, forcing him to master even the most complex techniques. The faithful servant brings tribute, proving that even a ferocious predator can be tamed. The demon's stern words serve as a constant reminder that simple gluttony will never lead to true strength. The uninvited guest appears again, and his smug grin promises nothing but trouble. Their fragile alliance is tested when survival collides with the lust for power. He uses his own servant's hunger as a weapon, exposing the demon's indifference. With a flash of contempt, the demon reveals a treasure that makes all their hunting efforts seem pitiful. The offering turns out to be not just food, but a specially bred creature, hinting at the demon's dark and mysterious past. The demon only smirks, confident that his earth magic will leave no trace. The bird turns out to be ideal prey, and its juicy meat promises a real feast. The dark flame transforms the bird into a delicious dish, tantalizing the hungry student. The aroma of fried meat attracts even the white snake, awakening its primal hunger. An unknown thirst takes hold of him, and he is ready to die rather than accept a handout from his tormentor. The demon devours the bird with relish, leaving behind only bare bones. He greedily bites into the juicy meat, not noticing how his student struggles with temptation. The demon leaves behind only gnawed bones, enjoying his cruel game. In a last attempt, he tries to seduce him, knowing that hunger is stronger than any pride. Rage flares up with renewed vigor, because the demon is not just tormenting him, but mocking his essence. The demon revels in his power, because even in his humiliating guise he remains master of the situation. The gesture of contempt becomes the last straw, and he realizes that his pride has been trampled. The unexpected breakthrough of his servants proves that the eaten bird was not just food, but a real treasure. The deal is made, and he exchanges the soul stone for a chance to touch an unseen power. The taste of victory turns out to be sweeter than any pride, and he understands that this breakthrough is only the beginning. Meanwhile, in his lair, the cleansing is completed, and the root of the tree is ready to grant him new life. He sees his pawns growing stronger, and a new, even more insidious plan is born in his head. Even the snake is forced to admit that his teacher's cruel methods are bearing fruit. The demon offers him an alliance, promising unlimited power in exchange for a temporary truce. He doesn't believe in an easy victory, but the demon reveals a secret to him that changes his entire understanding of monsters. Memories of the past battle make him doubt, because fear is stronger than any logic. The impudent demon only laughs in response, confident that no one will leave him in trouble. He reluctantly agrees, but sets a condition that changes their relationship forever. He pronounces his name with pride, not knowing that before him is a creature whose name shakes the world. The demon chooses a new name for himself, because the old one reminds him of lost power and humiliation. An argument over names turns into a comical squabble, showing that even demons can be petty. He decides to enlighten his new companion, opening his eyes to the true structure of the world. It turns out the world is full of powerful clans, and the snake catchers are just one of the 5 great powers. The history of the clans reveals secrets of the past, hinting at an ancient war and lost power. Their first target is a small clan, but even it seems an insurmountable obstacle for the aspiring lord. Fear grips him, because against 5 masters he doesn't have a single chance. Suddenly his attention is drawn to a flock of birds, and curiosity overcomes fear. They see hundreds of strange birds that act as if they are not in any danger. The attempt to use divine consciousness fails, and he realizes that the birds are protected. The demon decides to use a trick, using an ancient artifact to destroy their defenses. The formation powder removes the barrier, making the birds easy prey. He uses their favorite delicacy to lure them out and distract them from the main herd. One of the birds takes the bait, and now their plan is ready for its final phase. After patiently waiting for the right moment, they prepare to attack in order to grab as much as possible. A sudden attack sows panic, and now their only goal is to survive in this chaos. The demon's cruelty knows no bounds, and he revels in his power over his helpless prey. The sudden generosity turns into an order to run, and the snake does not understand what is happening. One of the birds falls dead, becoming a silent harbinger of impending disaster. A clan elder appears out of nowhere, his gaze promising nothing but death. Panic grips the demon, as he realizes that he has fallen into the trap of a powerful enemy. The elder uses ancient magic to divide the thieves and take back what belongs to him. The earth turns to stone, and the demon finds himself in unbreakable shackles, losing all hope. Rage awakens his true nature, and he breaks free from his bonds, ready for a bloody battle. The elder rushes in pursuit of the snake, not noticing the power he has just unleashed. The demon reveals its true form, and its speed amazes even the experienced master. He breathes a sigh of relief because he managed to escape from his most terrible enemy. In his lair, he prepares for a feast that promises him a new level of power. The combination of chicken and pill gives him unprecedented strength, and he revels in his greed. But his culinary talents prove far from perfect, and he bitterly admits his defeat. Saying goodbye to the remains of the feast, he does not notice how his impudent cohabitant appears from the shadows. The demon's rage knows no bounds, as he had to sacrifice an entire flock for his sake. He is reluctant to share his spoils, because their fragile truce depends on it. The demon looks at him with contempt, because without his help he would never have coped. His cheeky grin erases all boundaries, and now they are not enemies but strange allies. The demon decides to take him under his wing, promising to teach him true cruelty. His clumsy attempts at cooking become a comical display of his helplessness. The demon adds his treasures to the cauldron, and the air is filled with a divine aroma. The very first piece gives him an unprecedented surge of strength, and he greedily devours everything else. Well fed and contented, they rest, and for a moment the world seems simple and safe to them. But the demon does not lose his vigilance, because he remembers that gratitude is a weakness. A full stomach and new strength push him to take a desperate step, a breakthrough to the 6th rank. But his body can't take it anymore, and he finds himself on the brink of life and death. Even calling on the ancient artifact does not help, and he realizes that he has made a fatal mistake. In despair, he screams, not knowing that his mentor is already preparing salvation for him. The demon uses his power to create the perfect pill that can reverse the course of evolution. The pill grants him not only strength, but also dependence, turning him into an obedient puppet. He feels his body filling with energy, and the long-awaited breakthrough becoming a reality. 10 days later, he reaches the peak of rank 6, but the price for this is a slowdown in true growth. The demon leads him to a new goal, promising even greater power in exchange for blind obedience. Despite the breakthrough, he feels weak because his physical strength remains at the same level. A sudden fire disturbs their peace, and he realizes that their shelter has been discovered. It's not just fire, but a magical flame sent to smoke them out of their lair. Rage clouds his eyes and he throws himself into the fire, ready to defend his home to the last. He understands that this is his home, and no one dares to take away from him what he acquired with such difficulty. Meanwhile, the hunters watch from afar, confident that their fire trap will work perfectly. For the mentor, this mountain is just a training ground, and the student is a bargaining chip. Soon a clan branch will open here, and this land will become their undivided possession. The exploration bears fruit, and now they know that this mountain is a true paradise for cultivators. In the fiery hell, he finds himself alone with his fear, and the demon abandons him. But the faithful servant returns, ready to die to save his new master. The weak water bullets are useless against the wall of fire, and hope begins to fade. Even a powerful stream of water cannot cope with the magical flame. He understands that this is just a drop in the ocean, and his powers are too small to stop this hell. Suddenly he realizes that the fire is not an accident, but part of a cunning plan. Now he knows that the hunters came not for him, but for the Valley of Snakes and its priceless treasures. They throw themselves into the fire, but the demon stops them, because recklessness is the path to death. Amidst the chaos, a new player emerges, his calmness betokening unprecedented strength. Even from a distance, the demon senses his presence, and for the first time, alarm can be heard in his voice. He realizes that he is up against someone who is equal to him in strength, and his excitement is ignited. Without wasting a second, he disappears underground to assess the new enemy from afar. The demon explains that there are clones that have power equal to that of the true body. Suddenly the clone changes direction and his gaze is directed straight at them. They realize that they have been spotted, and now they will have to either run or fight. Despite the danger, they remain, because the talisman of stealth gives them false hope. But their camouflage proves useless, and now they are left alone with the enemy. With one blow he destroys a mountain, and his power makes even a demon freeze in horror. The deception is revealed, and the demon realizes that his arrogance almost cost him his life. The clone disappears, and now the hunter is sure that there is no one else in the cave. He breathes a sigh of relief, but the demon is already making new, even more insidious plans. The demon's greed knows no bounds, and he is willing to risk everything for the treasures of a weak clone. He tries to awaken in the snake a thirst for revenge, because his house has been turned into ashes. The demon's cruel words hit the patient, but he only clenches his teeth harder. He admits his weakness, but his eyes burn with the determination to become stronger at any cost. The trophy bag becomes his only hope for quickly gaining power. He sends his servants to training, while he himself prepares for the decisive battle for his future. A new battle begins, and now fate rests on the shoulders of the weakest. Far away, a new hunter finds the perfect spot, unaware that it is already occupied. A faint trace of demonic energy betrays their presence, turning him into a predator. The first attack falls on an empty space, and he realizes that his prey is not so easy. Invisible chains reach out to the fugitive, but he slips away, leaving the hunter with nothing. Instead of a powerful serpent, he finds only a mangy dog, and his confidence begins to crack. He asks a question, not knowing that in front of him is not a servant, but the master of this forest himself. A sudden explosion takes him by surprise, and he realizes that he has underestimated his enemy. Too late, he realizes that he has fallen into an illusion, becoming a pawn in someone else's game. The real enemy emerges from the shadows, proving that his own confidence was the biggest illusion. With one blow, he rips off the clone's head, and his world is turned upside down. Victory seems too easy, and he does not believe that he was able to defeat such a strong enemy. But the clone's body does not disappear, but only crumbles into pieces, ready for a new rebirth. The clone's death turns out to be just a test, and he realizes with horror that his enemy is still alive. The defeated enemy only grins, because he has successfully passed the test of strength. But even in death, the clone proves dangerous, and its grip does not weaken for a second. He understands that the clones are just cannon fodder, and the real battle hasn't even begun yet. The demon only laughs in response, confident that even the weakest clone is no match for him. Suddenly, the clone comes to life and unleashes its fury on the unsuspecting demon. He understands that his enemy is not so simple, and that he still has many deadly surprises in his arsenal. In a desperate lunge, he grabs the clone, paralyzing it with a previously unseen technique. The fiery breath turns the enemy into ashes, and he revels in his crushing victory. The battle leaves the demon exhausted, but the thought of the treasure makes him forget the pain. A flash of rage is directed at the snake, because it dared to touch his precious prey. The accusations destroy their fragile alliance, because he understands that he was just a pawn in someone else's game. Arrogance clouds his vision, and he is confident that he can handle everything alone. The demon angrily reminds him that without his help, he would have been dead long ago. A fragile truce reigns around the fire, for they both know that the real enemy is already close. Fear proves stronger than pride, and he runs, leaving the demon alone to face the coming storm. Meanwhile, the true master meditates in his lair, unaware that a trap is already waiting for him. The death of the clone does not bring him peace, because now he knows that somewhere there is someone stronger than him. He understands that his enemy is not only strong, but also cunning enough to deceive even him. The order has been given, and now an entire army will set out to find the one who dared to challenge him. Meanwhile, they run without looking back, saving their lives from the wrath of powerful enemies. The long journey exhausts them, and they realize that it will take them a few more days to reach their destination. Fatigue takes its toll, and he is ready to give up. But the demon does not allow him to relax. They find temporary shelter, and the demon falls asleep, leaving him alone with his thoughts. Even on the run, he wastes no time, and his faithful servant brings him his last consolation. After a good night's sleep, he feels a surge of strength, and is ready for new challenges on the path to power. But disappointment awaits him, because he cannot open the bag sealed by someone else's will. In desperation, he tries to break the seal, but someone else's will proves stronger than his own. The demon only smirks, looking at his helpless attempts, because he knows that the bag is beyond his capabilities. He decides to use his most powerful weapon, but the demon stops him, afraid of damaging the treasure. A comical brawl breaks out, and now they are fighting not for their lives, but for the right to possess the bag. A week later, they finally reach their destination, exhausted by the long journey and constant arguing. They find temporary shelter, and the demon falls asleep, confident that his companion will not go anywhere. He takes advantage of the moment to begin training, as this land is ideal for cleansing. His new power allows him to dive into the ground to unprecedented depths, but the price for this is hellish pain. Through the pain, he feels his body become stronger, and the spikes on his tail become sharper and more dangerous. When he returns, he sees that the demon has prepared a feast for him, and this gesture becomes the first step towards a true union. The exhausted demon admits his defeat, because he was unable to open the bag. The treasures turn out to be useless junk, and he is furious at his naivety. He refuses to share the spoils, because there is nothing in it that could strengthen him. But the demon doesn't believe him, and their fragile alliance is once again on the verge of breaking apart. The unexpected appearance of a lizard interrupts their argument, and now they have a new problem. The demon only smirks, because he had hidden the most valuable thing in advance to teach his student a lesson. He reveals his deception, but the snake sees this as just another mockery. The demon's sinister grin suggests that he knows something that can change everything. He talks about the ancient art of puppetry, which turns living beings into obedient dolls. This art is the key to defeating their common enemy, and now they are ready for the final battle. The ancient art of puppetry promises him unlimited power, because one owner is equal to 100 warriors. Dreams of an easy victory intoxicate him, and he already sees himself as an invincible puppet master. But harsh reality brings him back down to earth, because a long and dangerous journey lies ahead of them. Crossing the river proves to be an impossible task, as its depths are teeming with hungry monsters. The only chance of salvation is a steamship, and now they will have to face the most dangerous predator man. Hiding under his hat, he tries to pay the fare, but his invisible presence only arouses suspicion. The gem becomes their ticket on board, but its light attracts greedy glances. They become targets for bandits who are unaware of the fatal mistake they are making. Ridicule and threats rain down on him, because in the eyes of the bandits, he is just a defenseless insect. In an instant, their laughter turns to screams of horror as an invisible force descends upon them. Their careless use of force attracts attention, and they are now the center of everyone's admiration. A familiar voice makes the demon wary, because he senses the approach of an old enemy. He recognizes the elder as the one who dared to steal his birds, and his heart fills with rage. Panic grips them, and the demon is ready to run, but the snake holds him in place. The elder's keen sense of smell notices something is wrong, but he cannot believe that this is not a human being. A strange energy attracts the girl's attention, and she realizes that she has already seen this man. The elder is approaching, and now they have no chance of salvation. He decides to go all in and talk to the elder, hoping for a miracle. Suddenly the elder recognizes him, and the ice in his eyes is replaced by a warm smile. An unexpected invitation grants them salvation, and now they are honored guests on this ship. He doesn't believe in luck, but the demon explains that in the human world, pride is more important than memory. The danger has passed, but he understands that in this world one cannot relax for a second. The demon opens his eyes to the true stakes, where not lives, but entire states are at stake. The night city greets them with noise and bustle, and they seek refuge in this anthill. Like a master, he demands the best room and food, forgetting that he is only a guest here. The tavern is teeming with life, and every corner is steeped in stories, drunkenness, and brute force. A rich dinner promises them their first real feast in a long time. Under the cover of the hat lurk two hungry monsters, ready to devour everything in their path. They pounce on the food, and their animal appetites turn dinner into a real massacre. The taste of real food intoxicates him, and for the first time in a long time, he feels alive. The demon only laughs, because in every dish he senses not only the taste, but also a hidden threat. But the student surpasses the teacher, noticing what escaped the demon's gaze. In this city of vice there is no place for justice, and everyone is to blame for their own death. Meanwhile, other predators are already waiting in the shadows, confident that their poison will soon bring them rich prey. Greed clouds his eyes, because he sees not monsters, but only treasures that will soon be his. The feast is over and they prepare to leave, taking the remains of the poisoned food with them. Under cover of night they disappear, because for a real snake, human traps are just a child's play. But the poison doesn't affect those it was intended to, and the hunter himself becomes the victim. An empty room and the remains of a feast are all that remain of his grand plan. Rage and humiliation drive him to recklessness, and now the chase becomes a matter of honor. The demon decides to go about his business, leaving the snake alone with his thoughts. But trust is not his strong point, and he decides to follow his unpredictable companion. He is surprised to discover that the demon is spending their shared money on weapons. The deception is revealed, and he realizes that the demon has hidden the most valuable treasure from him. Meanwhile, the snake tries to sell the pill profitably, bargaining for each stone. His clumsy attempts at bargaining only evoke laughter and suspicion. A sudden sense of danger makes him freeze, because someone is watching him. He understands that he has attracted the attention of a powerful enemy, and now he cannot escape. New players enter the game, and their intentions are far from friendly. They recognize him as the one who caused the commotion, and now he faces a cruel retribution. They argue, not knowing that their differences only play into the hands of their real enemy. Like a shadow, he follows his victim, confident that this time he will not escape. The hunters are confident of an easy victory, as their target is just a weak newcomer. He comes to the shop to sell the stolen goods, not knowing that he is already being followed. The contents of the bag arouse the merchant's suspicions, and he invites him into his chambers. A sudden order to close the doors turns the shop into a death trap. The hunters realize that their prey is trapped, and now all they can do is wait. 3 hours of waiting turns into an eternity, and their patience wears thin with every passing minute. A satisfied merchant leaves his shop, unaware that his luck will soon turn into a nightmare. He falls into the hands of hunters, and now he will have to answer for his greed. The merchant points to the back door, and now the hunters have a new lead. Rage clouds their eyes and they give chase, not noticing how they are being led into a trap. They realize that their prey is trying to leave the city and decide to block all exits. He watches them from afar, surprised that the demon did not abandon him in trouble. But he decides not to take any risks, because in this city even the weakest can become a deadly threat. The hunters burst into the house, confident that they have cornered their prey. They feel his energy, but cannot find it, and their confidence is replaced by anxiety. They realize that he is hiding somewhere here and begin to search every corner. Polite words cannot hide their true intentions, and the air fills with tension. Patience runs out, and they draw their blades, ready for a bloody end. The first attack falls on the demon, and his rage knows no bounds. Hunters count their victims, not knowing that the real enemy has not even shown itself yet. The demon becomes bait, and now the hunters are sure that their target is a defenseless animal. The sudden appearance of the puppets takes them by surprise, and their confidence is replaced by horror. The demon only laughs in response, because he is not just a beast, but a deity whom they dared to challenge. The fireball proves that his power has not faded away, but was just biding its time. Even after a fatal blow, the enemy remains alive, and his dark energy sows panic. They understand that even dead puppets can be deadly. The demon revels in their fear, because now he is the puppeteer, and they are just puppets in his game. He decides not to interfere, because at the crucial moment he can always collect the debt. The demon just grins, because he hasn't even started to have fun yet. The giant puppet enters the battle, and its power is capable of crushing any enemy. But the demon only licks his lips, because for him this is not a threat, but just a new entertainment. An icy attack hits him, but he doesn't even think about dodging. The giant frog becomes his final trump card in this deadly game. In one gulp, she absorbs the icy attack, transforming the threat into her own power. They are confident that victory is now in their hands, but the demon only grins. A shadow emerges from the frog's mouth, and its hunger proves stronger than any magic. They realize that they are trapped, and now all they can do is run. But the escape route is blocked, and now they are just pawns in the game of a mad god. They rush into the attack, confident that their combined power is enough to crush any enemy. But the demon only grins, for his wind of bloody blade is capable of tearing apart reality itself. He revels in their fear, because for him this is not a battle, but only a feast. Their energy is suppressed, and now all that remains is to wait for them to collapse from exhaustion. The battle awakens in him a thirst for training, as he realizes how weak he is compared to the demon. The sudden appearance of a beggar catches his attention, and he feels a strange, familiar energy. The wounds on his body are identical to those of the hunters, and a terrible guess pierces his mind. The demon is introspective, not understanding why his victim is not resisting. Suddenly he realizes that this was the true body he had been looking for so long. But what if this is just another puppet, and the real enemy is still lurking in the shadows? He understands that the enemy is somewhere nearby and decides to give it his all, because there is nowhere to retreat. The death of the puppets and the appearance of a mysterious dog ruin all his plans, leaving him alone with the unknown. A firestorm descends upon him, but he meets it with icy calm, ready for any attack. With ease, he creates a water shield, proving that his power over the elements is limitless. He is confident in his defense, not knowing that his enemy controls not one, but all the elements. A sudden attack from Thunder Talismans takes him by surprise, and his body is pierced by hellish pain. He walks straight into the epicenter of the explosion, and his insane courage makes even the snake freeze in horror. Too late he realizes that he has fallen into a trap, and now the ground beneath his feet is a minefield. The last trump card is the Protective Bell, his only hope of salvation in this deadly game. But even the indestructible defense shatters into pieces, and he is left defenseless in the face of his death. The explosion rocks the city, and his cry of despair is drowned out by the roar of collapsing buildings. He lies among the ruins, unable to believe that his impenetrable defense has been useless. But even on the threshold of death, he does not give up, ready to meet his destiny with open eyes. The battle attracts the attention of the entire city, and now their secret is revealed. The demon realizes that his student is in trouble and decides to intervene before it is too late. In his last attempt, he tries to absorb the serpent's soul, but his body is already at its limit. He understands that he underestimated the enemy, and now he will have to look for a new, stronger shell. The demon decides to use puppet technology to capture people's souls and gain new power. He sets out to find the serpent in order to unite his efforts and crush all enemies. The city is on fire, and he understands that this battle is only the beginning of a long and bloody war. The demon finds him, but instead of gratitude he receives only reproaches and suspicions. Accusations of inaction escalate into open conflict, and their alliance begins to crumble. He realizes that the demon knows about his secret affairs and decides to escape before it's too late. The long chase wears them out, and they finally stop to divide the spoils. The demon generously shares food, but his true goal is not gratitude, but spiritual stones. He tries to bargain for a better deal, but the demon sees right through him. A flash of rage gives way to curiosity, because the enemy's things may turn out to be useful. Among the junk, he finds ancient artifacts, and his heart fills with greed. The demon promises to fix the broken artifact, but his true goal is to get everything. He takes the most valuable things for himself, proving that in this world, you can't trust anyone. The demon shows off his new armor, promising him unlimited power in exchange for loyalty. In a rage, he tries to take back his treasures, but the demon turns out to be stronger and more cunning. The demon's generous offer makes him think, because the price for power may be too high. He reluctantly agrees, but secretly hides his most valuable treasure, not trusting his new ally. He understands that the demon is also playing his game, and decides to learn his cunning. The demon leads him to a new place of power, promising him even greater power. Before them appears a spiritual mountain, whose energy is capable of accelerating their path to the top. Even after 500 years, the cave retains its pristine power, untouched by time. This place is an ideal refuge, where there are no enemies or prying eyes. They both feel a surge of energy, and now their joint training promises to be truly explosive. The brutal training begins, and he prepares a hellish cauldron for his rebirth. The priceless pill promises him unprecedented strength, but the price for it is hellish pain. His body burns from the inside, and he finds himself in agony, because the path to strength lies through suffering. The old skin dissolves, and he sheds not only the flesh, but also his past weakness. He emerges from the cauldron a changed man, his newfound strength filling him with triumph. The teacher leaves him alone, because true strength is born in complete solitude. A week later, he is twice as long, and his new body is a living weapon. Now he can control his size, transforming from a giant into an invisible shadow. His strength and speed triple, and he realizes that he has surpassed all his limits. The new spikes on his tail hint at his true destiny, to become the legendary yellow dragon. Left alone, he decides to explore the cave, because the absence of the demon is a chance to become stronger. Suddenly his divine consciousness fades and he finds himself in pitch darkness. He feels that something is wrong with his consciousness, and panic begins to take hold of him. In the darkness he stumbles upon something, and a terrible guess pierces his mind. A sharp crystal cuts him, and the pain brings him back to the cruel reality. A whole vault of spiritual stones opens before him, and he realizes that he has found a treasure. He can't believe his eyes, because in front of him is a whole fortune that can change his destiny. Greed gets the better of him, and he decides to hide his discovery from the demon. As if they were alive, the stones themselves fly into his mouth, and he greedily swallows them one after another. But his body cannot withstand such a flow of energy, and he finds himself on the brink of life and death. The ancient dragon within him awakens, greedily absorbing the energy of the spiritual stones. But absorption is selective, and he understands that his artifact requires special food. The pain subsides, but now he will have to explain himself to the demon, whose curiosity knows no bounds. A cry for help interrupts his thoughts, and he realizes that his companion is in trouble again. A swarm of fire moths descends upon the demon, and his cries for help go unanswered. In a rage, he accuses the snake of inaction, not knowing that it itself is scared to death. Even the indestructible armor proves powerless, and the demon is overcome by panic. He decides to intervene, because the death of the demon will leave him alone with this nightmare. A joint attack becomes their only chance of salvation in this firestorm. A fireball falls upon the moths, and now all they can do is hope for a miracle. The fireball destroys the moths, but awakens a new, even more terrible threat. Giant ants emerge from underground, and now they will have to flee. They rush without looking back, but the swarm of ants does not lag behind, driven by a thirst for spiritual energy. A river stands in their way, and now they will have to choose between fire and water. The demon takes out his last trump card, a fan that can carry them across the river. But even in flight, he does not miss the chance to reproach the snake for its helplessness and greed. He realizes that the ants are not hunting for him, but for the spiritual stones hidden by the demon. It turns out that the highest spiritual stones are a magnet for monsters, and now they are the main bait. The demon admits that he is the cause of all their troubles, and his self-satisfaction knows no bounds. A sudden storm hits them, and now they will have to fight not only monsters, but also the elements. A lightning strike splits the fan, and now they are left alone with the raging elements. The demon throws him a lower stone, hoping that it will distract the monster's attention. The whirlpool draws them into its embrace, and now they will have to fight for their lives. In desperation, he uses water bullets, hoping to weaken the current and escape the trap. But his strength is too little, and he understands that he cannot cope alone. The demon disappears into the abyss, and he is left alone with his helplessness. He dives after him, because despite all the differences, he cannot abandon him in trouble. At the bottom, he finds the cause of the whirlpool, a giant mountain creating a deadly current. Even his thorns prove powerless, and he understands that inevitable death awaits them. Miraculously reaching the shore, he sees that the demon is unconscious, and now their fate is in his hands. In desperation, he decides to do the most disgusting thing, because the demon's life hangs by a thread. Confused and humiliated, he comes to his senses, not knowing whether to thank or curse his savior. He decides to take advantage of the moment to find out from the demon the secret of the highest spiritual stones. The flash of rage in the demon's eyes indicates that he has touched on a forbidden topic. In fear, he tries to retreat, but the demon will not let him out of his tenacious clutches. The demon reveals to him the secret of the abandoned mine, but the price for this knowledge is an eternal debt. 2 months later, the rainy season puts out the fire, but brings with it a new, even more dire threat. Hunters from all over the world come to the mountain, attracted by rumors of untold treasures. Powerful clans are among them, and now the mountain turns into a bloody battlefield. Rumors of the white snake are spreading throughout the area, and now it is the main target for all hunters. The new freedom intoxicates her, but deep down she feels that she has lost something more than just a chain. Hope for survival is mixed with determination, as their goal is to destroy the nest at any cost. The swamp is teeming with invisible dangers, and the fear of an ambush becomes almost tangible. There is something ancient lurking in the murky waters, and even a timid offer of help seems like a harbinger of trouble. Magic reveals the swamp's secret, but the hunter's patience only proves their deadly determination. The unexpected attack from the depths proves that the white snake has a powerful and fierce protector. The appearance of a wolf ruins all plans, and now the hunt turns into a battle for survival. They join forces, and the anticipation of victory mixes with the thirst for a bloody feast. Once they split up, they become twice as dangerous, because now their prey has nowhere to run. The earth rises up against him, and he realizes that the battle for survival has only just begun. 2 months of training transform him from a simple kite into a master of gravity. He hones his skills, and now even the most powerful techniques seem like child's play to him. The demon helps him improve the puppets, turning them into deadly weapons. With the help of his new servants, he sees everything. And now he is the undisputed king of this mountain. But the demon warns him about being overconfident, because his friends can become his weakness. The golden glow left by the demon becomes their only protection in this hostile world. A sudden attack interrupts their peace, and now they will have to fight for their lives. The hunter cannot penetrate the glow, and recognition and fear flash in his eyes. The wolf is bound in chains, and now he is just a helpless bait in the hands of cruel hunters. The anticipation of victory intoxicates them, but the golden glow instills an inexplicable anxiety in their hearts. The jade amulet is their last chance, and now all they can do is wait for the mentor to arrive. Greed overcomes fear, and they decide to take a risk, because glory will go to the one who kills the demons. They prepare for battle, confident that their mentor will appreciate their courage and resourcefulness. An hour later, the demon returns, exhausted by the chase and disappointed in his own strength. But instead of rest, a new threat awaits him, because the cave is already surrounded by enemies. He realizes that the golden glow will not save them, and decides to hide and wait for the battle. The puppets become his eyes, because in this darkness, he can only trust himself. The hunters laugh, not knowing that their self-confidence will soon turn into a nightmare for them. The puppets' sudden attack causes panic, and now they are just defenseless victims. A fireball falls upon them, and now all they can do is beg for mercy. The petrification technique turns the ground into a deadly trap, but the enemy is too fast. He recognizes the Tiansui clan's technique, and his heart is filled with horror and bewilderment. The demon's return confirms their worst fears, and now they will have to fight for their lives. He tries to negotiate, but his words are drowned out by the roar of the approaching battle. The indestructible shield of the earth becomes his only hope for salvation in this chaos. He realizes that all the puppets are controlled from one place, and now his target is underground. Having exposed himself, he becomes an easy target, and now he will have to accept the fight. He sees in his enemy only a pitiful insect, not knowing what power he hides. A sudden attack from underground takes him by surprise, and he realizes that he has underestimated the enemy. The thirst for revenge clouds his eyes, and he unleashes all his deadly might on the serpent. His pathetic techniques only evoke laughter, and he realizes that he is facing a power of a different level. An invisible pressure crushes his defenses, and he finds himself defenseless in the face of the enemy. His arm shatters into pieces, and he realizes that he has underestimated the power of his opponent. The amulet is his last hope, and he prays that help will come in time. But instead of salvation, he sees before him a real monster, whose roar shakes the earth. A flash of lightning hits him, and his cry for help is drowned out by the roar of the explosion. The blast shakes the ground, and he realizes that the battle has only just begun. He comes to his senses, not believing that he survived, and realizes that he has once again attracted the wrong enemy. Among the ruins, he finds his fallen enemy, and a thought flashes through his mind. He decides to save his allies before it's too late, because the real enemy hasn't arrived yet. A true enemy emerges from the shadows, and the rumors of the Black Serpent turn out to be true. The clan elder is burning with a thirst for revenge, because he came not for glory, but for blood. He rushes into the attack, unwilling to forgive the death of his clansmen, and the battle begins. The order has been given, and now he is ready to personally teach the insolent man a lesson in mortal pain. The very first blow almost rips off his tail, and he realizes that he is facing a true master. His invincible compression technique proves that his toys are useless against brute force. In desperation, he tries to hide underground, but it is not so easy to escape from this enemy. A sandstorm hits him, and now he has nowhere to hide from the elder's wrath. The elements tear apart everything in their path, and he realizes that he is faced with a force capable of destroying mountains. He is left alone with an invincible enemy, and now all he can do is beg for mercy. The first technique hits him, and he dodges hundreds of deadly blades. He realizes that brute force is useless, and decides to use the legacy of his dark mentor. A crushing blow tears the earth apart, leaving him no chance of escape. But he uses his own earth magic to hide from the wrath of a powerful enemy. A giant blade pierces the ground, and he barely manages to dodge the fatal blow. He understands that he cannot leave without permission, and decides to accept the fight. In a desperate lunge, he throws himself at the blade, and his fangs prove stronger than steel. Wounded and exhausted, he realizes he has only one, riskiest way left to win. He sees a crack in his blade, and his confidence is replaced by a chilling horror. Suddenly his prey turns to ice and disappears, leaving him completely bewildered. Memories of past humiliation give him strength, and he rushes into the attack with renewed fury. He can't believe that some demon can move underground with such ease. But he was unlucky, because he encountered not a simple demon, but a future king. A deadly blade nearly pierces him, and he realizes that he has underestimated his enemy. Agility and cunning save his life, and he again escapes the blow. Even when wounded, he does not give up, because his reduced body gives him an advantage in speed. The wind amulet is his last hope, and he pours all his remaining strength into it. The sandstorm leaves him no chance, and he realizes that he is driven into a corner. In his last attempt, he uses the amulet of invisibility, but it doesn't help either. He dives 800 meters underground, and now all he can do is hope for a miracle. He understands that the only way to win is to become like his enemy. The elder finds him, and now he will have to fight a force greater than his own. He tries to understand the motives of his enemy, not knowing that he came not for him, but for his friends. He understands that the elder has come to save his animals, and a plan is born in his head. A flash of lightning illuminates the battlefield, and he decides to risk everything to save his allies. He starts the countdown, and now the snake has only 10 seconds to make his choice. In the confined space of the cave, he becomes a real nightmare, ready to tear anyone apart. The elder's strange counting confuses him, and he loses precious moments. At the last moment, he decides to take a desperate step, coming out of hiding and taking the blow himself. The elder unleashes all his power on him, and now his fate hangs in the balance. Finally, he finds his victim, confident that she cannot escape his all-seeing eye. The crushing pressure grinds him into dust, and victory seems so close. But the sacrifice turns out to be not so simple, and the challenge is thrown right in the face of a powerful enemy. The final blow falls from the sky, and he looks down in triumph at the lifeless body. Disappointment is mixed with greed, because even dead this beast is a priceless trophy. The scraping of metal on stone breaks his triumph, and a terrible thought pierces his mind. He understands that he was just a toy in the hands of a puppeteer, and that the real enemy is still laughing in the shadows. Golden spikes burst from the ground, and now he is a defenseless victim in this deadly game. The instinct of self-preservation forces him to erect an impenetrable wall. His best defenses are shattered, and he realizes that he has underestimated the true power of his enemy. With a final lunge, he seizes his enemy, their fury mingling in a deadly dance. He calls upon his most powerful weapon, ready to bury the enemy under the weight of the mountains. But in response, he unleashes the blade of wind, and now the elements will meet in a final battle. His body is at its limit, and he understands that this was his last, most desperate blow. Thrown back by the explosion, he realizes he has only one chance left for salvation. A cold determination flashes in his eyes, for now he knows that this serpent must be destroyed. But a third player emerges from the shadows, having been patiently waiting for his moment. The sudden appearance of the demon turns the hunter into the hunted, and he runs for his life. With one blow, he ends the elder's life, proving that there is a bigger predator in this game. But victory gives birth to a new conflict, and now they will fight for the right to possess the body of the fallen enemy. His dying cry turns out to be a ruse, and he rises from the flames, ready for the final battle. The battle is over, and now that the enemy has been defeated, it is time for the bitter truth about the price of victory. To win, he had to sacrifice a part of himself, turning his own body into a death trap. Exhausted and broken, he is ready to give up, because the battle has taken from him not only his strength, but also his will to live. The demon's rage unleashes upon the entire clan, and he vows to incinerate anyone who dared to hurt his disciple. He leaves them in a safe place, surrounded by care and protection, because even demons have those they protect. He leaves to bring healing, leaving them alone with hope and fear of the unknown. A generous gift becomes the price of loyalty, but grievous wounds remind us of the cruel price of this battle. He grants him not just healing, but the power to change his destiny and make him invincible. Leaving them with everything they need to survive, he leaves to start his own war. Revenge becomes his only goal, and he goes straight to the enemy's lair. The clan leader's rage knows no bounds, because for 10 years, no one has dared to challenge them. Suspicion falls on the eternal enemies, and the fragile peace between the clans is under threat. But the snake catchers deny their guilt, because even their minor skirmishes are not worth the life of an elder. Despite the peace treaty, the underground war continues, with each side seeking its own gain. The search reaches a dead end, and they realize that they have encountered a monster they have never seen before. The corpse, burned to ashes, proves that this is not the work of a monster, but of something more powerful. Suddenly, the elder recognizes the handwriting of his old enemy, the black serpent, whose name inspires terror. Anger and thirst for revenge are mixed, and now he is ready to do anything to destroy the damned serpent. He decides to turn for help to someone who has already encountered this monster once and survived. He watches from afar, confident that his enemies will not be able to cope with his cunning plan. The demon decides to take advantage of the moment and desecrate the graves of his ancestors in order to protect his student. He finds a tomb, and the icy aura emanating from it promises him untold treasures. But his greed runs into an indestructible barrier, and he realizes that the coffin is protected. An ice dragon bursts out of the coffin, its roar shaking the very earth, freezing everything around it. The demon realizes that he is facing a force equal to his own, and now he will have to fight. The battle between two titans begins, and now not only treasure is at stake, but also life itself. The ice dragon proves stronger, and the demon realizes that he underestimated his enemy. But even in defeat, he does not lose his pride, because before a real dragon, any illusion is just dust. The noise of battle attracts attention, and now they will have to answer for desecrating sacred ground. Horror grips them, as they realize that they have desecrated the shrine of a powerful clan. They are in a panic, because now they will have to answer for their actions before the enraged head of the clan. Meanwhile, the chase continues, and now the hunters are confident that their prey is somewhere nearby. A sudden smell of burning throws them off the trail, and they realize that their enemy is not so simple. The long-awaited breakthrough to the 7th rank grants him unprecedented strength and self-confidence. Now he is a real monster, capable of crushing anyone who stands in his way. Golden spikes cover his body, and he imagines with horror that he will become a real monster. But their peace is disturbed by the howl of a wolf, and he understands that the enemies are already close. They hide, but know that they cannot escape their fate, and they prepare for the decisive battle. The clan leader senses something is wrong and orders his disciples to search every inch. An urgent message interrupts his search, and now he will have to return empty-handed. The news of the plundering of his ancestor's tomb enrages him, and now revenge becomes his only goal. They fly away, unaware that they are being watched by the one who caused all this chaos. The demon rejoices, because now he has not only a treasure, but also the perfect body for a puppet. The clan leader's wrath falls upon his students, as their incompetence led to disaster. They realize that they are facing an enemy whose strength is superior to their own. Doubts and suspicions sow discord, and now everyone is ready to blame the other for failure. Accusations against the snake catchers are destroying the fragile peace, and now war is inevitable. They realize that their enemy knew about their plans, and now they will have to look for the traitor in their ranks. Information about a mysterious black dog comes to light, and now they have a new, even more dangerous target. The order has been given, and now the entire clan will rush to search for the demonic serpent and the black dog. The demon gathers his allies, ready to leave this place that has become a trap for them. He explains that he has distracted the enemies, and now they have a chance to escape. As proof, he throws him the trophy, and the snake realizes that he was just a pawn. They run without looking back, because the clan is already close, and now their fate hangs in the balance. The demon leads them to the Valley of Snakes, where they can replant the sacred trees. Gratitude overwhelms him, but he cannot understand why the demon is so kind to him. A generous gift becomes the price for loyalty, but the demon denies his merit. A sudden surge of gratitude makes him forget his pride and embrace his savior. Having divided the spoils, they prepare for the next stage, testing their spiritual roots. The white snake is the first to be tested, and its interest in elixirs becomes the key to its future. She passes the test with ease, and now her destiny is to become the greatest alchemist. Her body flashes with green light, and the demon realizes that he is looking at a real treasure. The spiritual tree root is a rare gift that every clan in this world dreams of. The Wolf Lord can't believe his luck, as they now have an endless supply of pills. The demon reveals another secret to him, and now he sees in the white snake not just an ally, but a future beauty. He gives her all his treasures, and this gesture becomes the first step towards their strange union. Confused and grateful, she doesn't know what to call him, and her innocent question leaves him stumped. The demon only laughs, for his words have already planted the seeds of the future he has been waiting for so long. Jealousy and embarrassment mix into a furious roar, and now their union becomes even more tangled. Confused, he tries to deny the obvious, but his heart has already made its choice. She accepts his name, and this gesture becomes the first step towards their shared future. The controversy over names continues, and now everyone wants to grab their piece of fame and recognition. The demon is tested, and his tricolor root is found to be of the highest quality, but with poor potential. The demon explains that the more roots there are, the more difficult it is to develop them, and his words are full of hidden mockery. His turn comes, and the crystal ball flashes with all the colors of the rainbow, surprising even the demon. The energy is out of control, and he realizes with horror that his power could destroy him. The power of his spiritual roots amazes everyone, and now he is not just a snake, but a real phenomenon. The ball is about to explode, and he understands that his body cannot withstand such a flow of energy. But the demon sees this not as a weakness, but as incredible potential, because he not only has many roots, but all of them are of the highest quality. The demon looks at the ball in horror, not believing that such a monstrous power could be hidden in such a small body. He decides to focus on his strongest element in order to reach the top as quickly as possible. The demon's turn comes, and the orb bursts into dark flame, revealing its true nature. He proudly admits that he possesses the rarest dark root, and his smugness knows no bounds. Now that his strength is restored, he is ready for a new breakthrough that will make him invincible. A month later, the earth shakes and he demonstrates his new, crushing power. The very first training session bears fruit, and he easily creates a wall capable of stopping a landslide. Now he must decide what is stronger, his indestructible wall or his own destructive power. He creates armor from the earth, making his defense as impenetrable as his attack. He understands that he has only mastered a small part of his power, and that he still has a long way to the top ahead of him. He understands that magic has made him stronger, but his hunting skills leave much to be desired. Meanwhile, the white snake reaches unprecedented heights in alchemy, promising him an endless supply of pills. But her strange methods give him an ominous feeling, and he decides to stay away from her. The second dog, appearing out of nowhere, only increases his suspicions and anxiety. She proudly offers him her pills, unaware that her creations are deadly. One gulp brings the dog to the brink of death, and she realizes in horror that she has created poison. He decides that hunting monsters is much safer than tasting her deadly elixirs. A herd of elephants becomes his new target, and their juicy meat promises him a real feast. Among them, he notices a leader whose strength is capable of replenishing his reserves for many months. But his hunt is interrupted by the appearance of new players, and now he will have to fight for his prey. The hunters of the Chow Yao clan are ruthless, and even elephants are just prey for them. Their talent for foresight is not a gift, but a curse, for it feeds on blood and suffering. They are already dividing the skin of an unkilled beast, dreaming of power, wealth, and the love of beautiful maidens. The leader of the herd rushes at them in a rage, ready to defend his family to his last breath. But the hunters only laugh, because they did not come to fight, but to arrange a bloody massacre. The deadly formation envelops the herd, and now they have nowhere to run from the deadly trap. The pitiful struggle of the doomed only amuses them, because they revel in their power and cruelty. One of them summons his spear, ready to personally finish off anyone who dares to resist. But his blow is aimed not at the leader, but at the defenseless baby elephant, and this becomes his fatal mistake. The leader takes the blow, and his death roar shakes the earth, full of pain, rage, and the promise of revenge. He understands that if he doesn't intervene, he will lose his only source of food. But the fear of the powerful clan makes him doubt, because open combat is suicide. He decides to wait, because even a wounded leader is still capable of fighting back. A cunning plan is born in his head, because cunning is a weapon that knows no defeat. Despite his wounds, the leader continues to fight, his fury breaking down the deadly formation. In a last attempt to save his herd, he appeals to the humanity of the hunters. The formation collapses, and now they have a chance for salvation. But the hunters are not ready to retreat. Rage clouds their eyes and they give chase, ready to kill anyone who stands in their way. They split up, and this becomes their fatal mistake, because now they are easy prey. He sees his chance and decides to attack, because now he is not a victim, but a predator on the hunt. The exhausted baby elephant becomes easy prey, and now its fate is sealed. One of them rushes forward, leaving his comrades to be torn apart by the enraged leader. Greed clouds his eyes, and he is ready to sacrifice his friends for the sake of precious tusks. A sudden attack from underground ends the life of one of them, and panic grips the rest. They realize that they are facing a monster they have never seen before, and now all they can do is run. He sets an ambush, and now the hunters are just defenseless victims in his deadly game. A golden spike pierces the leg of one of them, and his cry of despair is drowned out by the noise of battle. Hundreds of fireflies take to the sky, and he realizes he's fallen into another clever trap. The explosion blinds him and he falls, defeated, not believing that some bug has tricked him. A small but deadly enemy emerges from the grass, and now it will have to answer for its cruelty. He saves elephants, but now he will have to become bait for hunters himself. The mentor sees the dead leader and understands that his students have failed. Suspicion falls on the escapees, and he sends his faithful servant to search for them. An explosion interrupts his thoughts, and he realizes that he is faced with a force equal to his own. Divine consciousness scans the surroundings and demands that the invisible enemy reveal itself. He realizes that his opponent is a master of laying the groundwork and decides not to take any risks. In a rage, he unleashes his wrath on the ground, trying to smoke out the cowardly enemy. But instead of the serpent, he finds only his disciples, ready for the last, decisive battle. They report that their target has escaped, and now they will have to pursue him. He sees their tension and decides to play a joke on them, because the game has just begun. The puppet charges forward, and now the hunters will have to fight the shadow. He realizes that he is facing a puppet master, and his confidence is replaced by fear. The attack on the students turns out to be just a diversion, and now he is left alone. He laughs, because why fight fair if you can kill your enemy with his own weapon? The student's dying scream echoes through the forest, and now the mentor burns with a thirst for revenge. The mammoth leader enters the fray, his fury capable of incinerating the earth itself. He understands that he cannot cope alone, and his only hope is his little helpers. Fire beetles distract the enemy, giving them a chance to deliver the decisive blow. But the enemy disappears again, and he realizes that this game of cat and mouse could cost him his life. He decides to fight to the end, and his water curtain becomes the last line of defense. The battle of the elements reaches its climax, and now not only victory but life itself is at stake. He understands that if this continues, he will die without ever knowing true power. In despair, he decides to sacrifice his treasure to have a chance of salvation. His faithful assistant flies away, leaving him alone with the enraged enemy. The battle leaves behind only corpses, and he looks with bitterness at the exterminated herd. But among the dead bodies he finds a survivor, and hope flares up in his heart. He decides to help the wounded leader, because their shared hatred of hunters makes them allies. Suddenly the leader bursts into flames, and he realizes that he has witnessed a real miracle. A new, even more powerful beast emerges from the flames, and now they have a chance for revenge. He understands that all this was part of an insidious plan, and now he himself has become a pawn in someone else's game. Gratitude overwhelms him, and he is ready to kneel before his savior. He decides to hide his true identity, because in this world it is better to be a servant than a target. He sees the corpse of a defeated enemy, and realizes that the golden elephant was just a bait. The thought that the enemy might be alive makes him give up easy prey. 3 days later, he comes to, unable to believe that he survived the deadly battle. Rebirth gives him not only a new life, but also a chance to atone for past sins. His mentor appears from the shadows, and he doesn't know whether to be happy or afraid of this meeting. The mentor's ridicule hits him where it hurts, and he realizes that in his eyes he is still a weakling. But behind the mask of contempt lies concern, and he decides to take him to the clan to heal his wounds. Meanwhile, the snake realizes that for a real breakthrough he needs something more than just a fish. He understands that for true power, he will have to trust his dark mentor. A sudden explosion interrupts his thoughts, and he looks anxiously towards the lair. A demon emerges from the smoke, poisoned and humiliated, having almost been killed by kindness. The Lord of the Wolves does not believe in her holiness, because her gift is not a blessing, but a curse. The demon is in despair, as her inept talent turns their cave into a powder keg. He tries to reach out to the demon, but he sees her chaos as just a funny distraction. Despite all the failures, she proudly presents her first successful creation. He feels the dark energy emanating from the pill and understands that it was created especially for him. The battle for the pill becomes a test of their strange alliance, where care mixes with cruelty. The demon insists on his own, because in his perverted world, this is the highest manifestation of brotherly love. She proudly declares that her talent is limitless, and now they can forget about hunger. But the demon reminds her of others, because true strength lies in faithful allies. The Wolf Lord is in despair, as he will have to go hunting to prove his worth. He soon returns with the spoils, and now they have the perfect test subject for the new elixir. They decide to feed the fish to the monkey to test what the new pill can do. An explosion of energy transforms the monkey, and it breaks through several ranks at once. Even half a pill grants incredible power, and they realize that they have created a real miracle. She rejoices, because her genius knows no bounds, and now she is the greatest alchemist. But triumph turns to horror when they see their test subject turning into a monster. The fish grow legs, and now they realize their experiment has gotten out of control. A scream of horror breaks the silence, and they realize that they have created a real monster. They find a monkey, barely alive, and decide to carry out their cruel experiment to the end. The remains of the pill transform her agony into something unimaginable, and she begins to change. The transformation exceeds all their expectations, and they realize that they have created something perfect. The monkey goes through all the stages of evolution, turning from a simple animal into a higher being. Having broken through 5 ranks at once, she becomes human. But the price for this is too high. Her body cannot withstand such a flow of energy, and she falls dead, never having experienced her new power. She looks at her creation in horror, not realizing that her genius has turned into tragedy. The demon tries to console her, but deep down he himself doesn't understand what went wrong. The familiar manner of death awakens vague memories in him, hinting at a dark and cruel past. He feels a strange energy emanating from her and realizes that she is not who she seems. His suspicions are confirmed, and he realizes that she is practicing a forbidden technique. The heavenly demon technique is not a gift, but a curse, and now she is doomed. The demon admits that his gift was a trap, as this technique is only suitable for demonic bodies. He orders her to activate the technique to see what her unique root is capable of. The fusion of 2 forces creates something unprecedented, and he realizes that her pills were no accident. He forbids her to refine the pills, but deep down he hopes that she will disobey. He encourages her, because her talent is the key to their shared power and success. Her eyes glow with determination, and she vows that she will soon create the perfect cure. The demon decides to help her, because her success is also his chance for a long-awaited breakthrough. Dreams of flight are shattered by harsh reality, but a golden object in the hands of a demon gives new hope. The clan's secret map becomes their key to untold treasures, and they prepare for a night raid. Under the cover of the moon, they penetrate into the enemy's lair, where every step could be their last. The Purple Cloud clan is a world of women where beauty, arrogance, and deadly magic reign. Their cultivation technique is not a gift, but a curse that turns men into obedient slaves. They revel in their power, not knowing that their technique is a path to madness and self-destruction. Under the cover of night, a tragedy unfolds, and love becomes a bargaining chip in a game of power. She rejects him, because in her eyes he is just a toad dreaming of a heavenly swan. They watch the humiliation, and the demon reveals his insidious plan, because their main goal is not treasure. He learns a terrible secret, because the creator of this technique was originally a man who sacrificed everything for the sake of strength. He is concerned with only one thing: how to penetrate the impenetrable barrier unnoticed. The demon only grins because nothing is impossible for him, even transformation. In an instant, the ferocious demon turns into a cute puppy, ready to do anything for his goal. He pounces on the puppy in disgust, but deep down he knows this is their only chance. Their cunning plan is ready, and now all they have to do is wait for the victim to fall into the trap. The appearance of the guards becomes a signal for action, and they put their plan into action. A small chameleon sent by the snake creates the illusion of an attack, attracting the attention of the guards. They rush to help, not knowing that their compassion will lead to their death. She takes the wounded puppy, and now the gates to their lair are open to a real predator. He easily penetrates inside, and now the fate of the entire clan is in his clawed paws. Inspired by the demon's success, he decides to repeat his trick using his puppets. But his plan falls apart when the guards return, attracted by the noise. The puppet attacks him, and now he becomes a victim in his own game. The guards take him for a real enemy, and their swords are ready to end his life. In a rage, they rush into the attack, unwilling to listen to any excuses or pleas for mercy. He doesn't understand why they saved the dog but are ready to kill him, and his heart fills with resentment. The demon only smirks, because he knows that his cute appearance is his best weapon. Feigning fear, he distracts them, giving the snake a chance to escape. They rush off to search, unaware that their prey has already disappeared into the shadows. He realizes that his plan has failed, and now he can only hope for fate. With one blow, the demon destroys all barriers, and now the path to the treasures is open. He understands that the cunning dog has fooled him, and now he will have to act quickly. The demon reveals to him the location of all the vaults, and now all they have to do is choose a target. He understands that the demon's true goal is not the pills, but the treasures of the mysterious pavilion. Their attention is drawn to cries for help, and they realize that something terrible is happening in one of the rooms. The demon only laughs, because other people's suffering is just a funny entertainment for him. He teaches his student a harsh lesson, reminding him that there is no happy ending for sycophants. But he only snaps back, because in his eyes the demon is not a mentor, but the same thief. Meanwhile, in one of the rooms, a scene full of passion and gratitude unfolds. But behind the gentle words lies a thirst for revenge, and now he is ready to tear his offenders to pieces. The familiar energy makes him wary, because it carries not only power, but also a mortal threat. The demon reveals to him the location of the room with the pills, but warns him of the danger that lurks inside. He develops a cunning plan where each of them will play their part in this deadly game. The demon is ready to do anything to distract the guards, because not only the pills are at stake, but also their lives. Any noise could be their last, but for the sake of treasure they are ready to risk everything. He enters the room and immediately feels a familiar energy that makes his blood run cold. Suddenly he realizes that his old enemy is not only alive, but is one step away from him. The thought of revenge clouds his eyes, and he decides to take advantage of the moment to end it once and for all. But the hard stone under his feet ruins all his plans, and now he will have to improvise. He decides to use his golden needles, because at such a distance they are the most deadly weapon. He understands that he cannot kill 3 at once, and decides to act cunningly. The appearance of the servant with gifts gives him the perfect chance for a surprise attack. But in the room there is not only his target, but also someone who can ruin all his plans. The servant hides behind the name of the mentor, and now his lie becomes even more dangerous. Women laugh at his naivety, not knowing that before them is not a servant, but a messenger of death. They despise him for his kindness, because in their world, compassion is weakness. He realizes that the demon is useless, and now he will have to act alone. They mock him, not knowing that his kindness is just a mask hiding a deadly threat. He releases his golden spikes, and now their laughter will be replaced by screams of horror. A deadly energy pierces the silence, and now they will have to answer for their cruelty. A golden spike pierces his body, and a scream of agony shakes the walls of the room. The absorption technique drains his strength, and now he is a defenseless victim. An ice arrow pierces his back, and now his fate is sealed. The noise of battle attracts attention, and now their secret is revealed. He decides to run away, because if he is caught, the treasure will go to someone else. The sudden appearance of a servant ruins all his plans, and now he will have to improvise. He tries to justify himself, but his words are drowned out by the rage of his deceived friend. Shock and disbelief give way to rage, and now he is ready to tear the traitor to pieces. He rushes into the attack, and his fiery fist carries all the pain and disappointment. The explosion destroys the room, and now their secret becomes the property of the entire clan. The clan's founder emerges from the shadows, and her power makes even the serpent freeze in terror. He realizes that his mission is accomplished, and now all that remains is for him to do is watch the battle of the Titans. Meanwhile, in the laboratory, the demon faces a new threat, and his patience is running out. The old woman guarding the pills turns out to be not so simple, and her strength inspires respect. The demon decides to take advantage of the moment while everyone is distracted and steal the precious pills. But the smell of burning gives him away, and now he will have to face the angry old woman. He understands that he was deceived, and now he will have to answer for his actions. The sudden attack takes him by surprise, and he realizes that he has underestimated his enemy. He decides to go all in and use his fire magic to distract the old woman. A fireball falls on the furnace, and now he has a chance to escape with the stolen treasure. The demon returns, and now they are ready to begin the most dangerous part of the plan. They rob the lab and now have everything they need to create an army of puppets. The old woman is furious, because she was fooled, and now she wants only one thing: revenge. The demon only laughs, because his student is his main weapon in this battle. The old woman's rage falls upon them, and now they will have to flee. They hide, but understand that the treasures of the clan's past are their only chance for survival. A sudden ringing of the bell gives them away, and now they will have to face the wrath of the entire clan. They realize that they have been discovered, and now all they can do is hope for a miracle. A bad feeling comes over him, and he realizes that it is time to run before it is too late. The demon activates the teleportation formation, and now they have a chance to escape unnoticed. The demon feels that something has changed, and now he is not ready to risk his life. He trusts his intuition and suggests that the demon leave before it is too late. But the demon only laughs, because he believes not in intuition, but in cold calculation and brute force. He understands that the true path to cultivation is not to avoid risk, but to be willing to put everything on the line. Suddenly the demon agrees, and now they are ready to use the puppets together to infiltrate the pavilion. The formation is activated, and now they can only hope that their plan will work. Teleportation takes them straight to the treasury, and they realize that their daring plan has succeeded. They see untold treasures, and now they will have to decide what to take and what to leave. The demon finds something strange, and his instinct tells him that it is not just an artifact. He recognizes it as something he left behind many years ago, and now his past is ready to return. The demon offers him treasures, but his true goal is not to help, but to test him. Greed wars with caution, and he decides to take only what he can carry. He studies a new spell because his instinct tells him that the puppets might fail him. The precious pumpkin beckons him, and he decides to take a risk because such a treasure cannot be missed. Trying to break through the defense turns into hellish pain, and he realizes that he underestimated the enemy. The formation was destroyed, and now they were left alone with the enraged guards. A sudden darkness envelops them, and they realize they are facing a force greater than their own. An elder emerges from the shadows, and her wrath promises them a quick and painful death. The demon tries to resist, but his strength is insignificant compared to the elder's power. She revels in their fear, because today no one will leave this place alive. The order has been given, and now the entire clan is transformed into an impregnable fortress from which there is no escape. The demon realizes that their plan has failed, and now they will have to fight for their lives. He realizes that the elder only appears when the clan is in mortal danger. At the last moment, he manages to grab the most valuable thing, but this attracts unnecessary attention to him. The demon finds a way to break the formation, but it will take them a whole hour. He understands that brute force is useless here, and now they can only hope for a miracle. Fear paralyzes them, because the ocean of the elder's energy is capable of absorbing them completely. They realize that the elder is in ambush, and now they will have to play by her rules. A new plan is born, and now their task is to distract attention while they look for a way out. The entire clan rushes to search, and now they will have to fight not just one, but an entire army. The order has been given, and now even the clan leader joins the hunt, for their honor is at stake. Talismans sensitive to life energy become their main weapons in their searches. The huge reward makes them forget about fear, and now everyone is ready to risk their lives. They disperse across the territory, not knowing that what awaits them is not glory, but certain death. An ambitious student decides to act alone because victory promises her an unprecedented reward. Her talent and diligence are admirable, but in the eyes of her mentor she is just a pawn. She is ready to do anything to achieve her goal, because the reward is her only chance for freedom. The thirst for fame pushes her to recklessness, and she throws herself into the thick of things. Her ancestral sense leads her straight to her goal, and she realizes that her enemy is hiding underground. Meanwhile, he comes to his senses, and now he will have to face a new, even more terrible threat. Mutual accusations destroy their alliance, because the real threat lies in the shadows, not in the face of a comrade. Left for dead, he clings to life, for it is his duty to warn the clan of impending disaster. He understands that his death will be a victory for the enemy, and this thought gives him strength for the final push. Under cover of night, they search for their prey, unaware that they themselves have long since become prey. The found talisman becomes the key to solving the mystery, and now all they can do is call for help. But instead of salvation, they find only a fiery hell, and now they will have to fight for their lives. The ancestor's wrath falls upon them, because he sees them not as victims, but as the culprits of the tragedy. The cunning dog is using puppets again, and now the hunters are just pawns in his deadly game. He revels in his power, because for him this is not a battle, but just entertainment before the real feast. They understand that the puppets are just bait, and the real enemy is hiding somewhere nearby. He decides to act with caution, because recklessness is the path to certain death. She approaches, and he realizes that he is trapped with no way out. The bad feeling comes true, and now he is immobilized, awaiting his fate. The thought of the reward makes her forget her fear, and she is ready to risk everything for the sake of glory. But calmness and humility prove to be her main weapons in this deadly game. The appearance of the elder interrupts her search, and now she will have to answer for her failure. He realizes that his plan has failed, and now he will have to improvise. She lies to save her life, not knowing that her deception has already been exposed. Thanks to her caution, they stay alive. But now they will have to find a new way. He understands that she is not just a student, but the owner of a rare spiritual root. They prepare to escape, but they realize that it won't be that easy to get out of this trap. The broken array becomes a harbinger of their death, because now they are left without protection. The elder is furious, because she cannot believe that some worthless people could deceive her. She places a divine mark on them, and now they cannot hide from her all-seeing eye. They are in a panic, because now the elder knows their every step, and the chase becomes inevitable. They realize that they have fallen into a trap, and now they will have to fight two enemies at the same time. The Golden Dowel, an ancient artifact, becomes their last hope for salvation. A powerful wave of energy throws them back, and they realize that they underestimated the power of the artifact. In despair, he curses the demon, because their union turned into a real nightmare for him. The demon decides to go ahead, because if he can't get the treasure, then everything was in vain. An elder emerges from the shadows, and now they will have to face a real nightmare. She rushes into the attack, and her anger leaves them no chance of escape. The demon understands that she has come for him, and now he will have to answer for his actions. He decides to sacrifice himself to give his student a chance to be saved. By erasing the brand, he grants him freedom, but the price for this is his own life. The elder sees through his deception, but it's too late. Her array is already broken. She decides to fight the demon, because with his current powers, he is no match for her. But the golden pill in his body becomes an insurmountable obstacle in her path. He has only 3 strikes left, and he knows this is his last chance to win. He waits for his student, not knowing that he is already faced with a choice, to run or to fight. He understands that he cannot abandon his mentor, because their destinies are now connected. Doubts gnaw at him, because he is afraid that his intervention will only make the situation worse. He decides to take a risk, because it is better to die in battle than to regret his cowardice all his life. The elder understands that she won't win so easily, and decides to use her last trump card. A silver needle filled with deadly energy flies straight into the demon's heart. But the demon only laughs, because he foresaw this blow and prepared a trap. The sudden appearance of the dark dragon leaves her in shock, and now she herself becomes a victim. She understands that she has become a pawn in a game where not only her life, but also the honor of the clan is at stake. A chaos of golden light falls upon the demon, but he meets it with a contemptuous grin. She barely manages to dodge, and now she can only hope that her students will come to her aid. A clone created from his consciousness becomes his last hope for salvation. But the elder's divine consciousness is too vast, and now they cannot hide. She underestimated her enemy, and now she will have to face his true strength. He understands that his own strength has not yet been restored, and he will have to act cunningly. The sudden attack takes him by surprise, and he realizes that he underestimated the elder's power. The 9 Heavens triple sword is her strongest technique, and now he will have to fight for his life. He dodges the deadly blades, but understands that without earth magic he cannot escape. In desperation, he calls upon his last ally, and now the battle will reach its climax. The song of soul suppression falls upon the elder, and her mind is plunged into chaos. She understands that her enemy is not so simple, and now she will have to use all her power to survive. Even wounded, he continues to fight, because he has nowhere to retreat. His energy is running low, and he understands that every attack could be his last. The 3 demons of purity are his last hope, and he throws them into battle, sparing no effort. He is surprised that his weapon was able to wound the elder, and hope flares up in his heart. But the elder only laughs, because now that he has the brand on him, he can't leave. Suddenly he returns, and the demon realizes that his disciple has not abandoned him in trouble. He wants to control the puppet, but the demon knows that his powers are not enough for this. He decides to transfer part of his divine consciousness to him to give him a chance to win. New strength fills him, and he rushes into the attack with a roar, ready to crush the enemy. Now they are together again, and their combined power is ready to defy death itself. He decides to use the divine pill, because he will have no other chance to win. But the elder returns, and now they will have to face her face to face. The demon transfers his power to him, and now their destinies are intertwined. The shards of her weapon become her last hope, and she is ready to risk everything for victory. Their combined fury falls upon the elder, and now everything is at stake. The earth shield reflects her attack, and she realizes that she has underestimated the strength of her enemies. 3 demons of purity pierce her defenses, and now her fate hangs in the balance. The divine explosion pill is their last chance, and now all they can do is hope. He doesn't know his true abilities, but his instinct tells him what to do. He activates the pill, and now their combined power is ready to grind the elder into dust. The ancient vessel becomes their last hope, and now all they can do is believe. They rush into battle because if they die here, then everything was in vain. The elder dodges the attack, and her speed amazes even the demon. At the last moment, she manages to put up a shield, but the blow still throws her back. A giant thorn grows from the ground, and now she has nowhere to run from the fury of the earth. She can't believe that some insignificant demon could master such a powerful technique. Rage clouds her eyes, and she realizes that she has been made a laughing stock of. He continues to attack, and now his fiery spikes are the harbingers of her demise. She falls, defeated, but in her eyes it is not fear that burns, but a thirst for revenge. He understands that even at the Golden Core stage, his student is a force to be reckoned with. The Golden Shield amulet is her last chance, and she throws it into battle, hoping for a miracle. She soars into the sky, and now she is not afraid of either the thorns or the fury of the earth. She realizes that she has underestimated her enemies, and now she will have to use all her power. A shower of pear blossoms is falling on them, and now they will have to defend themselves. She is confident of her victory, because her ancestor's golden core will soon run dry. The demon realizes that she is right and decides to raise the stakes in this deadly game. He finds ancient mountain walls, and now they have a chance to turn the tide of the battle. He decides to risk everything, because even if he can't control the new power, they will have a chance to win. He comprehends the principles of all earthly spells, and now his power knows no bounds. He turns into a real dragon, and now his enemies will have to answer for their cruelty. They rush into the attack, and their combined might is ready to crush even the strongest enemy. A scream of agony shakes the earth, and he realizes that he has encountered a force capable of altering reality. He turns the earth into an impenetrable prison, and now she has nowhere to escape. She can't believe that some insignificant snake was able to master an ancient and forgotten technique. For centuries, this technique was lost, and even the most powerful masters could not master it. She understands that the snake studied her at the very moment when she herself tried to kill him. Fear makes her retreat, because she understands that she cannot win this battle. But he has already surrounded her, and now she will have to fight for her life. In desperation, she uses her last trump card, but even it cannot save her. She uses the amulet of movement and escapes, leaving him alone on the battlefield. The demon realizes that the amulet is the key to instantaneous travel, available only to a select few. But he is not ready to retreat, because today he will finish her off, no matter what it costs him. A giant wall rises from the ground, and now she cannot escape its deadly grip. He summons his most powerful technique, and now her fate hangs in the balance. She throws all her amulets into battle, but even their power is not enough to stop him. He turns into a giant stone serpent, and now his power knows no bounds. Even the most powerful talismans prove powerless, and she understands that she is doomed. The demon orders him to finish her off because they may not have a second chance. The final blow falls upon her, and her body falls limply to the ground. But at the last moment she slips away again, leaving them with nothing. The battle is over, and now that the enemy has been defeated, all that remains is to count their losses. The demon admires his strength, because he not only survived, but created his own technique. But his body cannot bear it, and he falls, exhausted by the battle and his own power. He understands that if he doesn't finish off the enemy now, he won't have a second chance. The demon decides to retreat, because even in a semi-conscious state his student is dangerous. The earthen armor is his last defense, and now he is completely at the mercy of instinct. Even after losing consciousness, he continues to defend himself, and his body becomes an indestructible fortress. The elder regains his weapon, but realizes that the battle is not over yet. The arrival of the ancestor changes everything, and now they have a chance for revenge. The head of the clan sees his defeated student, and now her wrath will fall upon the culprit. The clan leader's rage knows no bounds, and now the entire mountain will be turned into a hunting ground. The order has been given, and now the students are ready to do anything to restore the honor of their clan. They realize that they have underestimated the enemy, and now they will have to act together. A week later, news of the attack spreads around the world, spreading fear and panic. The rumors grow with new details, turning the snake and the dog into invincible monsters. The leader of the Mountain Mover clan is furious, and is now willing to increase the reward fivefold. He realizes that it was they who destroyed his clone, and now this hunt becomes personal for him. He sends his best student to announce the reward, and put an end to this chaos. The generous reward attracts hunters from all over the world, and now luck is on the side of the brave. Meanwhile, the demon prepares his army, because the stolen ancestor is the key to his future power. The head of the clan sees in him not just a thief, but a genius worthy of becoming his student. Meanwhile, the enemies are building a new pavilion, preparing for a full-scale war. The order has been given, and now they have only 6 months to prepare for the decisive battle. The huge reward makes him forget about fear, and now he is ready to do anything for the sake of victory. The thunderstorm becomes a harbinger of the coming storm, and he understands that there is little time left. A week passes, and his faithful servant is still unconscious, immersed in the nightmares of the past. Memories of past battles torment him, reminding him of the cruel price paid for survival. A mysterious voice from the depths of his consciousness awakens him, asking a question to which he has no answer. He sees his true artifact, a demonic vessel that contains the power of an ancient dragon. The dragon spirit opens the way to true power for him, but warns him of the difficulties that lie ahead. He understands that the technique of hiding the heart is the key to his true strength, but he must comprehend it himself. The earth splits, and he realizes that there is no more time to think. The dragon spirit passes on its power to him, and now he is the heir to the ancient clan. He comes to, not understanding what happened, and his faithful servant tries to calm him down. The headache is just a side effect of the pill, but now he is ready for new achievements. He asks about his friends, and the wolf tells him that each of them went their own way. Breaking through to the 8th rank grants him not only strength, but also new, deadly thorns. He decides to find his mentor to help him get rid of the flaws in his technique. The treasures he reaped in battle would be his payment for training and the key to laying the foundations. He understands that all this was not in vain, because now he has everything to become invincible. He understands that without the demon, a short and inglorious life would await him. Thoughts about the past are interrupted by her gentle voice, and he realizes that he has slept for an eternity. She takes him to a new cave, and now they have the perfect place to train. He finds out that he has slept for half a month, and realizes how far he has fallen behind his friends. As a token of gratitude, she gives him a bag of herbs, and now he is forever in her debt. She offers him her new pills, but he remembers the previous experiment with horror. She tries to prove that her pills have become stronger, but he is not ready to risk his life. She decides to conduct an experiment on pigs to prove her genius to him. But instead of pigs, they find only a clawed paw, and horror grips their hearts. A giant rat emerges from the shadows, and now they must fight a new, even more terrible nightmare. The giant rat turns out to be not alone, and now they will have to face a whole pack. A white snake finds a small rat and decides to use it in his experiments. She realizes that size is the key to victory, and decides to create her own army of monsters. The pill turns the little rat into a giant monster, and now they have their own weapon. The demon is furious, because now he has a worthy rival threatening his power. She invites him to try her pills, but he remembers his previous experiment with horror. As a sign of reconciliation, she gives him a whole bag of her creations, and now he is in her power. A special mark on the bag indicates that he is now her property, and he has nowhere to run. She leaves, leaving him alone with his thoughts and fears, because now he is completely in her power. He decides to focus on poison techniques, as this is his only chance of salvation. He understands that her health pills bring death, and the deadly ones bring a real apocalypse. Fear of her creations forces him to look for other ways to become stronger, because his life is at stake. He decides to create his own army, because in the last battle he lost all his puppets. Stone becomes his new material, and he is ready to create an army capable of crushing mountains. The first creations turn out to be weak, but they are ideal for reconnaissance. He tests their strength, and the flying stone proves that his earth root is a powerful weapon. He understands that one puppet is weak, but an entire army is capable of crushing any enemy. The thirst for power takes hold of him, and he decides to create 500 stone warriors. The bag is filled to capacity, but the storage stone solves this problem by giving it endless space. Suddenly he feels that the signal from the talisman has disappeared, and realizes that his friends are in trouble. A secret expedition begins with a hidden fear of being discovered. The sudden discovery of a wounded stranger ruins all plans. The helpless victim turns out to be a long-time and hated enemy. A creature blinded by hatred prepares to commit cruel revenge. Suddenly the thought comes to use the enemy for your own dark purposes. The experiment begins under the guise of false sympathy. Cynical rescue is carried out for dubious gain. The unexpected power of the drug awakens a terrifying force. The resurrected enemy turns into an uncontrollable monster. A rash act leads to absolute and frightening chaos. He sends the puppets forward, as careless use of force could give him away. By the river he finds a wounded man, and his clothes indicate that he belongs to the Mountain Movers clan. He recognizes him as the very dog from the Purple Mist clan, and is ready for a bloody feast. Suddenly, a cunning plan is born in his head, and he decides to use the wounded man in his experiments. He gives him a pill, considering it the first good deed in his new life. The pill works too quickly, and he realizes that his creation is deadly. The effect proves too strong, and the wounded man dies in agony, unable to stop the bleeding. He decides to search the corpse to find out what treasures he so desperately protected. But instead of riches, he finds only a diary full of pain, love, and self-sacrifice. He reads about his tragic fate and understands that he killed not an enemy, but an unhappy lover. He understands that all his troubles are from women, but his body still hasn't recovered. He creates an awakening pill to clear his mind and bring him back to life. The ghost of the wounded man thanks him, but asks him not to spit, because this is their only chance. He tries to feed him a pill in disgust, but he spits it out along with his saliva. The wounded man's saliva dissolves the pill, and now its power becomes uncontrollable. A foul smell fills the air, and he realizes that he has created not a cure, but a poison. The wounded man begins to vomit, and he realizes with horror that he is about to be drowned in someone else's vomit. He comes to, but now his body is just a vessel for indomitable energy. He summons the Ring of Taming, and now he is ready to subjugate any beast. He prays for a quick death, but the snake only grins, because his torment has only just begun. The talismans react to the approach of people, and now he will have to save not only himself, but also his friends. A group of hunters sets out to search, and now the entire Valley of Snakes turns into a death trap. They carefully check every corner, not knowing that what awaits them is not easy prey, but certain death. The sudden smell of vomit takes them by surprise, and they realize they are trapped. They run without looking back, but the disgusting smell pursues them, depriving them of the strength and will to resist. A sudden attack from underground immobilizes one of them, and now he is a defenseless victim. He is on the verge of death, and his cry for help becomes a signal to his friends. They join forces, and their combined attack gives them a chance of salvation. The white snake reaches a new level of strength and is now ready for new battles. He comes to and realizes that while he was unconscious, his friends became much stronger. He comes to, not understanding how he survived, and sees two powerful beasts in front of him. Now he is their pet, and his life is no longer his own. She gives him a pill to make him sleep, and now they can calmly discuss their plans. He falls asleep, and now they can set out on their journey without fear that he will give them away. They head to the mountain on the border of the lands, because a new, even more difficult battle awaits them there. She remembers the demon's words, and realizes that he left them a clue on how to cover their tracks. They realize that the demon sacrificed himself to give them a chance at salvation. He decides to lead his enemies into a magical forest where every trail leads nowhere. The hunters arrive at the scene but cannot find the entrance and realize they are trapped. The illusion blade technique destroys the barrier, and now they will have to face a real nightmare. The cave turns out to be empty, and they realize that their prey has escaped again. They feel residual energy and realize that they are just a little late. They decide to split up, as this will give them a better chance of finding the fugitives. Snake-finding techniques become their main weapon in this deadly race. The trail ends at a swamp, and he realizes that his prey is hiding in the muddy water. He decides to blow up the swamp to smoke out the snake, not knowing what power it will awaken. The explosion talisman is falling upon the swamp, and now they will have to face its wrath. A giant crocodile rises from the depths, and now they are just defenseless victims. The king crocodiles unleash their fury on them, and they realize they have been deceived. The snake's trail goes cold again, and now they have to search for it blindly, risking their lives. A foreboding feeling gathers in the crimson forest, full of hidden danger. A stupid mistake by one of them breaks the ominous silence, and pain pierces the air. A deadly swarm of poisonous bees descends upon the squad, sowing panic and chaos. Cries for help are drowned out by the buzzing sound as one of their own is devoured by the merciless pack. The sudden appearance of a fiery beast in the sky reveals the bitter truth about deception. The realization of the trap comes too late, because they have entered the lair of powerful creatures. The demonic beast's plan becomes clear, but the escape route is already cut off. The earth trembles from an unknown force, adding even more confusion to their desperate situation. A new nightmare emerges from the depths of the earth, huge and furious, leaving no chance for salvation. A brutal blow cuts off the last hope, demonstrating the full power of this primal horror. Horror paralyzes the mind, because the enemy turned out to be a monster of unimaginable power. Even on the brink of death, the last hope for healing glimmers in their hearts. In a desperate attempt, he unleashes an illusory barrage of shining blades on the enemy. The beast's self-confidence is unshakable, its power easily extinguishing any attack. Undeterred, he calls upon the power of the heavens, unleashing a blinding thunderclap. The monster's agility is astonishing, as he gracefully dodges the deadly lightning. From the depths of imagination, a water dragon is born, ready to absorb the fiery fury. The clash of the elements shakes the earth, but even the mighty spirit of water cannot overcome the beast. Cunning proves stronger than brute force when water becomes the perfect trap. Shock can be seen in the eyes of his comrades, because their mentor turned out to be much stronger than they thought. The sudden return of the allies brings not only relief, but also a shadow of suspicion. Recognizing the ancient monster brings back the chilling horror of a past battle. From the very heart of the flames rises an old enemy, his soul burning with a thirst for revenge. With a roar of rage, the mighty beast breaks the shackles, proving the futility of their efforts. An unknown weapon falls from the sky, forcing them to flee in panic. The monster's unstoppable power shakes the earth, leaving no stone unturned. At the end of their strength, they miraculously dodge a deadly attack, realizing their weakness. When hope is almost gone, he uses his last chance to call for reinforcements. The enemy rushes forward, trying to sever the last thread connecting them to salvation. A desperate tactical move gives them precious moments to retreat. The earth-shaking echoes of the battle give them a fragile hope of salvation. In this chaos, new players emerge whose innocent appearance is deceptive. The heavy burden slows their flight, testing their loyalty and endurance. The tension is mounting, as every moment of delay could be fatal for them. The surviving pursuers lick their wounds, their souls filled with the bitterness of defeat and a thirst for revenge. Fear of the mighty beast sowed the seeds of doubt and indecision in their ranks. The leader decides to retreat, but his words already contain a promise of brutal revenge. The victory turns out to be bitter, because now his clan will have to look for a new refuge. Ahead of them lies a new, even more ancient danger. hidden in the shadow of a mysterious mountain. They find shelter, but their instincts tell them they are far from alone. The new shelter turns out to be occupied, and direct conflict promises only greater trouble. A cunning plan is born in their little heads, based on a very dubious weapon. The bait has been thrown, and the monkey's curiosity is about to turn into a big mistake. The foul-smelling explosion spreads panic and disgust, sending enemies fleeing in panic. Escaping the consequences of their mischief, they rush through the poisonous cloud. The resentment over the use of a personal secret causes slight discord in their close-knit team. He realizes with bitter irony that his life is a series of ridiculous and risky decisions. Even primates are shocked by such meanness, and are unable to resist the chemical attack. The angry leader postpones revenge, but his gaze does not bode well. A lonely soul remains in the shadows, abandoned to its fate in this dangerous place. Strange smells are confusing, but in this chaos lies the key to new knowledge. The day spent in solitude was spent creating something very insidious. A silent army of stone puppets rises from the earth, ready for their first battle. The first test begins with a devastating rain of rocky bodies raining down on the forest. Blind fury and brute force create a whirlwind of destruction, proving their effectiveness. The realization of the power of one's creation is astounding, as it is comparable to human combat vehicles. A spark of genius gives birth to a new, even more explosive and deadly strategy. A desperate plea for freedom is met with a cold, calculating, and distrustful gaze. The captive reveals his story, offering loyalty in exchange for his own life. A fragile alliance is forged with just one glance, where a glimmer of truth struggles with deep mistrust. He ends up with an artifact that can subjugate will, changing the balance of power. The offer to serve sounds like a plea, but is met with cold calculation. Desperate readiness for anything is shattered against the wall of centuries-old mistrust of the human race. The words of the oath are drowned in steel embraces, where every movement threatens death. A cruel test throws him onto the altar of loyalty, where the price may be his life. The daring question of survival only worsens his fate, doubling the stakes in this deadly game. The helpless body becomes a toy in the hands of stone giants, enduring unbearable pain. A shameful defeat only evokes contempt, because his true strength was never revealed. Silence becomes the only answer when the body is broken and the spirit is almost crushed. The unexpected order to heal his wounds suggests that his new master has his own, much more distant plans. Realizing his powerlessness, the cunning enemy decides to use someone else's hands to regain what was lost. Half a month of solitude gave him a new level of power, but his hunger for strength only increased. The new servant's loyalty is in doubt, and cruelty seems the only guarantee of control. An unexpected guest breaks the silence, bringing with him mysterious and living prey. In an attempt to please, he brings a bloody gift, not noticing the tension in the air. The owner's unnatural silence creates anxiety, because something clearly has not gone according to plan. A talking wolf shatters the illusion of control by revealing the shocking truth about his nature. A sudden and furious attack becomes retribution for his presumptuous stupidity. Far from the chaos, someone enjoys a peaceful meal, unaware of the drama unfolding. The boiling cauldron turns out not to be torture, but a strange test that he even enjoys. The prisoner's life hangs in the balance, and his fate is decided by a dispute about his thinness. A brief respite gives way to new horror when they decide to taste it. Horror breaks his will, and his soul almost leaves his body under their cruel mockery. The failed treasure hunt only highlights their desperate situation. An unexpected discovery brings back lost treasure, causing shock and bewilderment. The mysterious disappearance of the enemy finds its explanation in his dark and cruel past. His cold-blooded tale of easy victory only highlights his ruthless nature. The death of their protector opens a window for attack, and darkness falls upon the unsuspecting clan. A chance word reveals a bitter truth to him, and he becomes a legend among those who seek him. In this moment of despair, he finds the strength to renounce the past and choose a new path. His newfound pride is met with the mocking gaze of darkness. The legend comes to life before him, but an ominous laugh hints at a terrible substitution. Instead of an ancient ancestor, a mysterious beauty bound in ice appears inside. The sudden loss awakens in him a furious cry of despair and boundless love. His sudden impulse stuns even animals accustomed to cruelty. A cruel mockery falls upon him like a crushing blow, humiliating his feelings. His humiliating request to at least give up the body is interrupted by a sudden intervention. Desperation pushes him to a mad dash, ready to be content with even a scrap of her clothing. The last hope is shattered by a furious blow that drives him away. The master's true face is finally revealed, and his chilling horror is forever imprinted in memory. The brutal truth about his weakness becomes a humiliating lesson that crushes his pride. He is given the path to great power, but the price for it is mastering the art of seduction and deception. Jealousy flares into rage, because the right to be the first mentor was treacherously stolen. The truisms sound like a mockery, because they have long since passed this level. A cruel kick becomes an act of farewell, sending them on their way with the taste of bitter tears. The aroma of cooking food awakens painful memories that he is trying to escape. Even in this chaos, the simple wait for a hot meal gives them a brief respite. An unexpected gesture of compassion eases his pain, proving that he is not alone in his sorrow. A silent puppeteer watches from the shadows, his true motives a mystery. The first spark of awareness flares in his hand, revealing the true color of his newfound power. His ordinary strength becomes a measure of the norm, only emphasizing his ordinariness. The world is divided into two camps, where geniuses are marked by the rare gift of blue energy. The realization of perfection that blue energy brings becomes his new obsession. The simple arithmetic of power is shocking. One genius is worth 10 ordinary warriors. A bold question arises in his head. Is there a limit to this ladder of power? The hierarchy of power is fully revealed, but its highest levels are accessible only to a few. The secret of true power lies not in the gift, but in the lost technique of the heavenly demon. The thought of the creator of this technology makes one tremble, because he must be truly great. Excessive praise of an unknown genius causes him to become jealous and irritated. Great art gives rise to dark suspicions, because its creator must be a real scumbag. A careless word makes the air freeze, and he feels the weight of their gaze on him. Words about the creator awaken in the beast a primal rage, ready to tear him to pieces. In the shadow of the mountains, a sinister alliance is formed, and an old enemy finds a new, even more powerful patron. The great demon beast appears in all its glory, and its power makes even old enemies tremble. Reluctant agreement hides a hidden resentment, but you can't go against such force. Care and pain mingle as his body is swaddled like a helpless baby. The ancient massif glows with a hidden menace, promising invisible death to any who dare enter. The protective talisman turns out to be two-faced, its safety overshadowed by words that sound like a farewell. A bitter confirmation breaks the silence, and the sudden farewell leaves behind only bewilderment. He chooses the path of solitude, heading to distant mountains in search of power that will change his destiny. The promise to return in years sounds like an eternity, reminding us of the transience of ordinary life. The sudden decision to follow his example speaks of an unwillingness to fall behind on this path of strength. The parting gift becomes the last chance for survival, sealed with a strict order. The power hidden in the gift is enormous, but its one-time nature gives it special value. Words of hope for a future meeting sound like a challenge to fate, receding into the distance in the rays of the sunset. A desperate call stops him at the last moment, as if there is still something unsaid. In response, he receives a gift that shines with unprecedented purity and energy hidden within it. The generosity of this gift is staggering, for it has the potential to change the course of his solitude. Boundless trust and self-sacrifice resonate in the simple offer to take everything. This gesture melts his heart, making him see his comrade as a true friend. The farewell at sunset is filled with gratitude and quiet hope for a new meeting. A belated return brings only the bitter news that he has missed his friend. The farewell message becomes a challenge, promising a future battle shoulder to shoulder. The news that she has gone alone raises concerns about her fate in this dangerous world. A sudden threat from the heavens falls upon them, testing the strength of their fragile alliance. The deadly attack forces them to act on the edge of their instincts to escape the fury of the heavens. Deceived in his expectations, the mighty enemy finds consolation in the form of easy prey. At the last moment, the ancient talismans flare up, creating a shield against imminent death. An unknown magic confuses the predator, causing him to doubt his own strength. Deep within his being, an ancient power awakens, emanating from his very bones. Realizing the futility of the attack, the nocturnal predator retreats into the shadow of the moonlight, leaving them alive. On the brink of death, he realizes the full power of the enemy, barely escaping thanks to ancient protection. Before they can catch their breath, they are faced with a new, even more terrifying and unlucky enemy. Memories of the past battle torment his soul, because the victory was only an illusion, and he was a weakling. A look of determination unites them, giving birth to a fragile hope of victory in this unequal battle. A desperate plan requires a sacrifice, and the role of bait falls to the weakest link in their alliance. In the night sky, the enemy reflects on his defeat, unable to believe in the new strength of his victim. Patience becomes his main weapon, because he is ready to wait as long as it takes to get the desired reward. The threat has temporarily passed, but the shadow of fear forces them to lie low, awaiting the next blow. The cunning trap is ready, and now all they have to do is wait for hunger to drive the enemy right into their clutches. Confident in his own endurance, he goes deep into the earth, preparing for a long siege. In the silence of the cave, he withdraws into himself, absorbing strength for the trials to come. A clumsy attempt at imitation is interrupted by an icy threat that reminds him of his insignificance. Time stands still and the skies open in anger, foreshadowing the coming of something terrible. Ominous clouds gather above them. An instinct tells them that this is no ordinary storm. From the heart of the storm emerges an ancient horror, woven from lightning and primal rage. Running away seems pointless when the ground is slipping away from under your feet and the air smells of a trap. Heavenly wrath follows them closely, turning the entire world into one giant trap. The knowledge that the enemy is preparing a crushing blow leaves them no choice but to fight. They unite their wills, calling upon the power of the earth as the last bulwark against heavenly punishment. In a desperate attempt to survive, they combine all their powers into one indestructible shield. A cry of victory rings out across the battlefield as the attack finally falters. Rage turns to triumph as he turns on his cowardly allies. From the very depths of the earth, wounded but not broken, he prepares to strike back. A sudden thorn rising from underfoot sows panic and confusion in the enemy ranks. The subordinate's stupid question only emphasizes that they haven't even realized who their real enemy is. Burning with righteous anger, he emerges from the shadows to personally punish his offenders. The minion's desperate attack is thwarted by a new, unexpected threat. A stone guard appears out of nowhere, throwing their failed plan into further disarray. The true plot is finally revealed, and the foolish bird falls into a trap set by the cunning serpent. Only a miracle saves him from the incinerating attack, reminding him of the mortal danger. The appearance of new enemies reveals a cunning plan, because behind them stands an invisible puppeteer. In the heat of battle, he decides to split up, trusting his ally to create a diversion. The stone warriors prove too weak to contain the fury of the heavenly predator alone. A new wave of attack takes the enemy by surprise, and his bewilderment is replaced by righteous anger. An endless army of puppets rises from the ground, turning the battle into a humiliating massacre. Cornered, he vows to tear his enemies to shreds, even if it costs him everything. Blinded by rage, he rushes into the very depths of the trap, looking for his true adversary. Descending into the serpent's lair, he finds himself on its territory, where the earth thirsts for his blood. Deadly spikes sprout from all sides and the trap snaps shut, leaving no escape route. Trapped with no way out, he relies on his last defense, facing the steel rain head-on. An unexpected blow to a vulnerable spot sows in his soul the first seed of doubt about his invulnerability. A moment of weakness becomes an opportunity for the enemy, and he rushes forward to deliver the decisive blow. The merciless throw of the snake was supposed to be the final chord, cutting short the life of the heavenly king. The enemy's cunning exceeds all expectations, forcing him to admit that demons are much worse than people. Realizing the futility of the struggle, he chooses a shameful flight, because life is more valuable than pride. Hope for salvation is dashed when the heavens unleash a new endless army upon him. The endless swarm of stone bodies drives him mad, turning the sky into his personal hell. Cornered, he challenges his tormentor, for even in death there is room for disobedience. When strength is useless, all that remains is numbers, and he has no choice but to take the onslaught. The last trump card is thrown, and its feathers become a storm of shining blades. The pain sobers him up, and he understands that this snake is a far more terrible opponent than any man. An attempt to escape is shattered by the cold confidence of the enemy, who knows that after such an attack, wings will not save him. A treacherous blow from underground deprives him of his last support and hope of salvation. The flame takes the form of a snake, and the retreating enemy sees himself pursued by death itself. In this deadly chase there is no room for pride, only a desperate desire to survive. The earth itself rises up against him, piercing his body with a merciless thorn. Pinned to the ground, he cannot believe that magic and talismans could not break the will of this monster. In his treachery, he sees the worst traits of people, and promises that the traitor will not see an easy death. The cold sentence has been passed. There is no place for people like him in this world, neither among people nor among demons. He rejects other worlds, because his only support is his family, and no one has the right to teach him death. A cold sentence falls from his lips, and darkness pierces the enemy against the silent moon. Relief gives way to concern for the missing ally, but a new threat is already looming from the shadows. A sudden blow shakes the ground and pain shoots through his body, catching him off guard. A new enemy emerges from the shadows, its divine aura speaking of a power beyond anything seen before. The familiar appearance of the enemy awakens in the memory the bitterness of past defeat and the thirst for revenge. The death he narrowly escaped returns with renewed vigor, driven by unknown magic. In a desperate attempt, he summons his last defense, meeting the magic arrow with a wall of golden thorns. The collision of two powerful forces creates a blinding explosion that shakes the very foundations of the universe. The incredible power of the enemy's weapon pierces his best defense, leaving a deep wound on his body and pride. The bitterness of betrayal burns him from within, because the enemy stabbed him in the back in the midst of another battle. Even a defeated enemy must not be left to anyone, and he mercilessly destroys the remains of his victim. Licking his wounds, he realizes with annoyance how easily his enemy fell into the trap of this cruel world. Impotent rage boils in his veins, sealing his vow of cruel revenge on his offender. Unable to overcome the snake, he switches his anger to a weaker and more accessible target. Help turns into a nightmare when he becomes a living target for the entire horde to train. The enemy's mysterious weapon deprives him of any opportunity to resist, only increasing his humiliation. All his pride is trampled, and he, defeated, can only beg for mercy from his tormentors. On the verge of despair, he decides on one last trick, trying to appeal to their primitive instincts. The simple trick works, and the formidable army instantly turns into a chaotic flock thirsty for a treat. Brief relief gives way to horror as a new, unknown enemy emerges from the shadows. Underestimating the threat, he makes the foolish mistake of trying to appease the darkness with a banana. A cruel reality falls upon him when he is robbed of his most valuable possessions. The lost bag turns out to be not just an object, but the last link to his past. His despair becomes just a funny game for them, aggravating his humiliation. The helpless chase turns into a mockery, where he is just a toy in their hands. In the midst of his humiliation, the familiar force blinds him again, depriving him of his last hope. At the bottom of despair, he gains new sight, sensing streams of energy hidden from ordinary eyes. Insight gives him an advantage, and he catches his attacker, surprising him with his sudden luck. Strength and fury merge in one blow, and he returns not only his thing, but also his trampled pride. The cruel laughter of his offenders only adds fuel to the fire of his trampled pride. The last drop of humiliation awakens the darkness in him, and his gaze promises only pain. An unknown force bursts out, and the air is filled with a premonition of imminent death. The very first blow of unleashed fury shakes the earth, showing that the jokes are over. He loses control, and his body becomes a prison, consumed by the primal force of the earth. From the ashes of humiliation rises a monster of stone and lava, driven only by a blind thirst for revenge. Running away is useless when your enemy is the earth itself, and he has already chosen his first victim. A merciless blow ends the life of one of them, and the cry of horror is drowned out by the roar of the monster. Away from the chaos, a flash of rage does not go unnoticed, causing only bewilderment. He pronounces the death sentence, and the panicked flight becomes only a prelude to their death. Screams of terror are drowned out by the roar of lava, as the monster continues its merciless hunt. Cornered, he makes a desperate gamble, consuming the forbidden fruit in the hope of salvation. A new wild force explodes from within, and the victim itself becomes a furious hunter. The newfound power burns him up, turning salvation into excruciating agony. In a final burst of rage, the giant unleashes the full might of the heavens upon him, wiping everything from the face of the earth. In the ashes of a former battle, he finds only silence and a silent question about what happened here. The incredible transformation is shocking, because the one they considered a puppet has become a god. The answer lies in a lost object whose hidden power became the catalyst for this monstrous metamorphosis. Resurfacing memories reveal a tragic story of love and loss that led to this disaster. The great power is exhausted, and the giant turns to dust, leaving the predator to wait for its weakened prey. A sneak attack emerges from the shadows, catching the enemy off guard at the most vulnerable moment. A fatal mistake in the heat of battle when he tries to stop what cannot be stopped. A crushing blow shatters his stone flesh, proving the futility of resistance. The terrible weapon does not simply wound, it sucks out life itself, leaving behind only withered flesh. In a last desperate act, he throws the fiery blade, hoping to take the enemy with him. The enemy's silent resilience is astonishing, for even a mortal wound did not elicit even a groan from him. Suspicion forces him to act cautiously, sending his stone puppets on reconnaissance missions. In the ashes, he finds only the withered body of his faithful dog, who fell in this brutal battle. The mystery of the deadly arrows remains unsolved, instilling horror with their ability to destroy energy itself. He realizes that he was on the brink of death, and only a lucky chance saved him from a disastrous fate. The picture of the battle, seen from afar, leaves more questions than answers. The cunning plan has been carried out, and now the enemy will be led astray by his own blood. Even when wounded, he does not abandon the pursuit, sending his faithful servants on the trail of the enemy. 1,000 miles away, in a hidden cave, the air is thick with the sweet scent of pure power. Hiding from the world, he absorbs dark energy, preparing to reach the peak of his power. The sudden realization of his forgetfulness gives rise to anxiety for the fate of the one he left unprotected. The epiphany comes too late, and he realizes that all this time he was just a pawn in someone else's game. Driven by honor, he rushes forward to keep his word, no matter the cost. Returning to camp brings only emptiness and the troubling question of a missing friend. On the brink of life and death, she makes a desperate choice, sacrificing her last treasure for the sake of salvation. The unexpected tenderness towards the fragile person surprises even her, giving birth to new feelings. The joy of the long-awaited meeting is overshadowed by anxiety for the fate of their new, defenseless friend. The bitterness of separation brings tears, but in the arms of a friend there is always comfort. But the true reason for the tears lies not in separation, but in a terrible misfortune that she is afraid to talk about. A relentless pursuit begins, driven by the ominous promise of trying out a new, unknown weapon. In a panicked flight, he rejects all pleas, because his own life is more valuable than other people's promises. Desperate vows of safety ring out as lies in an attempt to stop his escape. A blinding flash of heavenly wrath proves that no promises can guarantee safety. The final ultimatum has been thrown, and the divine awakening pill becomes a weapon, not a gift. Just one glance at this concentrated power throws him to the ground, deprived of strength and will. In a desperate attempt to protect her own, she rushes forward despite pleas and fear. Even in the jaws of the enemy, her last thought becomes a gift given with hope for the future. Left alone, he vows revenge, not realizing the true cost of his escape. A bitter realization comes with tears when he realizes that kindness was mistaken for poison. The loss of one test subject only opens the way for a new one, and there is no room for grief in their eyes. Their attention shifts to a new victim, whose wounds promise new, cruel experiments. With childish confidence, she takes on the task, because for a true specialist, there are no hopeless cases. Under a silent sky, she makes a promise of healing, leaving his fate in her small paws. In the silence of the night, a dark ritual begins, where souls become just pieces in a great game. Absorbing someone else's power, he feels his body become stronger, and his heart beat in anticipation of new power. A blinding flash marks a breakthrough to a new level, granting him power never before seen. The newfound power heightens his senses, and the world around him appears in a completely different light. Even in death, the enemy continues to serve him, becoming material for the creation of even more powerful puppets. A sudden sound breaks the silence, and paranoia reminds him again that he could still become prey. Under the full moon, a new hunter appears, drawn by the scent of battle and the promise of easy money. Deception breeds rage in him, because instead of the promised prey he finds only stench and emptiness. The suspicion of betrayal forces him to move on, but now he has become much more cautious. He understands that the old enemy did not give up so easily, and now he will have to deal with this new threat himself. Far from this chaos, a miracle begins, and the torn flesh begins to slowly regenerate. The speed of healing amazes them, but they realize that it will take more than that to fully recover. Even in unconsciousness, he is tormented by memories of the cruelty he himself once displayed. The sudden return of a friend breaks the silence, bringing with it not only joy but also shock. Faithfulness to one's word proves stronger than insults, and he brings the promised gift, surprising with his honesty. The farewell is interrupted by a desperate plea for help, because they cannot do without his talent. Traces of a past battle become the key to the solution, and he takes up the trail of his old enemies. A heightened sense of smell detects a new, even more powerful threat lurking nearby. It becomes clear that their enemies are not just cunning. They have wandered into the territory of deadly predators. The enemy's weakness is explained by a recent wound, which gives them a ghost of a chance of victory. The mysterious disappearance of the enemy only fuels their passion for the chase, as it is now a matter of honor. The slight mockery of mistrust only underlines how much their relationship has changed. In the shadow of the forest thicket, an old acquaintance comes onto the stage, and his appearance does not bode well. Under the moonlight, he witnesses the return of an ancient clan, fleeing their power. The memory of his past feat is still alive, because he once saved their cub at the cost of great risk. Calling on an old debt, he asks for help because his own clan was mercilessly destroyed. Despite his dislike of other people's discord, an ancient code of honor compels him to answer the call. Reluctantly, but obeying the order, one of them sets off on his journey, not understanding the reason for this sudden haste. The realization that their enemy has human technology forces them to reconsider their plans. The offer to send reinforcements is met with offended pride because he does not consider himself a weakling. At this time, far away from them, a brilliant and insidious plan is born in the head of another. A mysterious bone becomes the key to solving the mystery, but its origin remains shrouded in mystery. Insight comes suddenly, and the familiar smell takes on meaning, revealing the secret of the bone's origin. Ancient legends come to life, recalling the power of tusks capable of destroying magic itself. The realization of the value of the find gives rise to fear, because now a real hunt for this treasure will begin. In his hands is not just a bone, but the key to creating an artifact of unprecedented power. The farewell is filled with sadness and anticipation of a new meeting, which may take place many years later. An unexpected stop gives rise to hope that the bonds of friendship will prove stronger than duty. A sudden accusation of theft breaks the touching moment, turning friends into enemies. Gratitude turns out to be just a cover for a cunning plan, where friendship is a bargaining chip. A cruel joke awakens the darkest memories in him, returning him to his cruel past. A primal horror grips him when he realizes that he has become the victim of the very dog he once boiled in soup. Waking up brings only a fog in the head and a strange sensation in the hand, but the pain is gone. Vague memories of pain and the bite return, but no one cares about his suffering. The fragile calm is shattered when ancient protections are triggered, heralding the arrival of a powerful enemy. The powerful aura emanating from the cave spoke of a power he had never encountered before. He understands that his enemy has found an ally that is too strong, and there is no time to waste. An ancient giant, engulfed in flames, answers the call, and its power is capable of incinerating entire forests. Against such primal rage, all tricks are powerless, and the hope of an easy victory fades away. Fanatical faith in their leader pushes them to recklessness, not noticing his desperate sacrifice. Still recovering from their wounds, they face a new threat knocking on their door. All the pieces of the puzzle come together, revealing an ancient alliance and the secret of a deadly weapon. The mighty beast is surprised, because his cunning was discovered by someone equally powerful. One blow shakes the earth, demonstrating a power to be reckoned with. The plan is simple and brutal. Take over this place to dispel the illusion that hides their enemies. The anticipation of rich spoils and past greatness intoxicates them, causing them to forget about caution. A powerful call resounds through the forest, but it is addressed not to them, but to the true master of these lands. A sudden turn of events ruins all his plans, sowing fear and doubt in his soul. He speaks to an invisible ally, and his words sound like a betrayal to those who considered him theirs. The realization that their enemies are familiar becomes a death sentence for him, and he looks for ways to retreat. The memories that surface reveal the secret of an ancient debt, because once this snake saved his entire clan. An incredible gesture of respect for their leader turns everything on its head, because he is their true benefactor. A desperate plea for mercy for a new home is met with the fiery fury of an ancient benefactor. There is a cold calculation in his words, because the help was only an accident, and they have common enemies. Primal terror contorts his features, and a panicked cry becomes the only salvation for his clan. An ancient debt demands payment, and he proposes an alliance to settle old scores with a common enemy. A sudden blow becomes the answer, because in this battle he will not tolerate outside interference. False alarm gives way to suspicion, because behind the mask of weakness there was hidden a story unknown to him. Looking at the mountain of corpses, he realizes that his friend has changed, and it is time to let go of old worries. The last chance for victory lies in speed and cunning, because only cunning can overcome brute force. The challenge is thrown down, and the small body is filled with determination, because he has never lost in a speed race. The giant's incredible speed erases all hope of salvation, turning the chase into a massacre. A deadly spike piercing the ground almost reaches its target, leaving a trail of fire in its wake. Cold calculation tells him that evasion will only bring him closer to certain death. At the very last moment, he uses an ancient treasure, turning a deadly attack into a springboard. The daring escape stuns the giant, as his own strength was used against him. An unknown artifact becomes his salvation, carrying him away from the fury of his pursuer. The enemy escapes, but his cunning and incredible resilience leave behind only admiration and anxiety. In a fit of rage, he unleashes all his might upon the earth, creating a forest of deadly thorns. Despair gives way to the realization of his own stupidity, when his attack only helps the enemy escape. The blood on his lips becomes proof that even in this unequal battle he was able to strike a blow. Now that the enemy is wounded, the real hunt begins, and the thirst for revenge burns in his eyes brighter than any flame. The suspicion of simulation makes him act even more cunningly, because the enemy may be smarter than he seems. Time is running out, and he rushes into battle, because delay threatens the loss of his most valuable treasure. A daring attack on the fly becomes a trap for him, because the enemy was just waiting for this moment. The sudden blow takes him by surprise, but he still doesn't understand the true purpose of this attack. The realization of the deception comes too late, when his precious artifact is captured by an unknown force. The rage from such treachery blinds him, because no creature has ever dared to humiliate him like that. Greed flashes in his eyes, because he intends not only to get back what is his, but also to take what is not his. The spiritual imprint becomes the key to victory, and he puts all his power into one crushing blow. An unknown force breaks his connection with the artifact, and a cry of horror becomes his only response. Defeated but not broken, he cannot understand where this demon got such power and the illusion of a dragon. The threat in his words becomes real, and now not only pride but also life is at stake. He lays all his cards on the table, showing how easily he was manipulated and turned into a pawn in someone else's game. Too late he realizes that a truce is impossible, and the golden scales become his death sentence. The last hope is an energy-absorbing arrow, but even it may not withstand such power. At the most crucial moment, his best weapon crumbles to dust, leaving him defenseless in the face of the enemy. Even in defeat, he finds a nugget of knowledge, realizing that even the tusk has its weakness. The endless rain of golden scales drives him mad, turning the battle into torture. Realizing that the only way to win is to kill the leader, he launches his last desperate attack. The sudden intervention of the stone golems comes as a complete surprise to him, ruining all his plans. Even surrounded by enemies, he does not give up, tearing them to shreds in a fit of blind rage. The last trump card had been thrown, and a fiery explosion was supposed to be the finale of this battle. Even engulfed in flames, he does not give up, because his rage is stronger than any pain. A desperate vow to take the enemy to the grave with you is met with cold contempt. He understands that he was just bait, and his enemy was a fish caught on the hook. The plan of revenge has been carried out, and now his body will become a toy in the hands of soulless golems. The final blow is dealt in the name of the student, and only by surviving can he consider themselves even. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a battle of the elements rages, where hatred clashes with primal power. The scale of this battle is staggering, as even their benefactor watches, not daring to intervene. From the ashes and fire he rises, wounded but unbroken, bidding farewell to his fallen brother. He understands that the enemy is still alive, and he needs to act with confidence, because this cunning man can pretend to be dead. The final blow of the golden scales puts an end to this battle, leaving the enemy no chance. The gravity technique tears the enemy's body to pieces, and relief finally replaces the tension. Admiration for his strength is boundless, because he defeated an enemy who was no match for him. As a token of gratitude, he is offered a gift that burns even his own flame. The tusks of the fire-ice elephant are not just a weapon, but a symbol of the gratitude of an entire people. Legends come to life, telling stories of great creatures born in the eternal struggle between fire and ice. An irresistible desire to possess this power awakens in his soul, because he has already heard about it before. Modesty makes him refuse such a generous gift, but ancient traditions are inviolable. He learns the bitter truth about why his people were on the brink of extinction, and how they managed to survive. This gift is not just a treasure, but a legacy that he must accept in order to preserve the memory of ancient alliances. His sense of justice does not allow him to accept such a generous gift as fleeting help. In response, he offers his treasures, for true gratitude requires exchange, not alms. The unexpected gesture melts the giant's heart, as for the first time in his life he receives something in return. The farewell is interrupted by a bitter realization, as he realizes that his old enemy has used them blindly. The wisdom of his ancestors resonates in his words, as he thanks fate that their enemies did not encounter true power. The promise of future help is reinforced by the shocking revelation of his hidden, almost divine power. Disbelief in his words makes one doubt reality, because such power seemed impossible. Behind great power lies great responsibility, for the price of a breakthrough is the defenselessness of his clan. The eternal flame on his mane turns out to be not a gift, but a heavenly curse for the interrupted ritual. A new, risky plan is born in his head, because the enemy's strength may become the key to his healing. A generous gift becomes a symbol of a new union, sealed not by words but by deeds. The decision to become a friend rather than a benefactor changes everything, and he leaves, leaving behind only a promise. The farewell is filled with hope for a future meeting, when they will be able to see each other as equals. A dark feast begins in the ashes of battle, for even in death an enemy can serve. Among the trophies, a real treasure is discovered, capable of healing even the most terrible wounds. Unexpected discoveries continue to pour in, and even heavenly weapons find a new owner. Having received a real gift for the first time in his life, he cannot hold back the tears that melt the ice in his soul. An ancient artifact takes on a new purpose, promising to transform ordinary food into food for the gods. Among the junk, they discover a map that opens the way to new, unknown lands. Ancient drawings tell of powerful clans and monsters that rule these lands. The map reveals its darkest secrets, warning of mutated monsters thirsting for fresh blood. A mysterious cross on the map promises imminent death, but a key found nearby promises a great reward. Even its golden scales cannot scratch the mysterious key, proving its unearthly origin. A legendary furnace found among the treasures turns out to be the key to creating an unprecedented weapon. A brilliant idea is born in his head: how to create something great with the help of his will and ancient magic. The power of his spirit breathes life into dead metal, and in the flames of the furnace, the future weapon is born. From fire and magic emerges a blade of perfect form, imbued with his own spiritual power. The very first test demonstrates the incredible power of a new weapon capable of cutting through reality itself. The thrill of creation overwhelms him, and he decides to reforge the great tusk to create a true masterpiece. The furnace comes to life again, and this time an aura emanates from it that is far more powerful than before. The incredible power of the new weapon causes a fiery explosion that shakes the earth. The realization of his weakness forces him to put aside revenge and focus on his own growth. Even a defeated enemy can become a source of power, and he decides to use its remains for solitude. Waking up brings a strange numbness in the new hand, foreshadowing trouble. Desperate attempts to damage her own flesh prove her incredible, almost divine strength. Even fire cannot leave a trace on it, and he understands that he has found something legendary. The joyful discovery is interrupted by a reproach, because his cries have disturbed his friend's winter hibernation. To prove his strength, he invites her to bite him, unafraid of her poisonous fangs. The secret of her poison is revealed, and he explains with a grin that it is not at all fatal. Triumph turns to embarrassment when, after the bite, his body reacts in the most unexpected way. The awkward situation forces her to take on the role of healer, as she is now responsible for his condition. Strange treatment methods make her blush, because she herself is not averse to trying something new. The horrific sight on his hand turns out not to be a curse, but a way to expel one poison with another. Desperation pushes him to take a crazy step, because he is ready to lose his hand rather than become a demon. The offer to test his new power becomes a temptation he cannot refuse. The very first blow unleashes incredible power, shaking the earth and his own sense of strength. He understands that he has acquired not just a hand, but a divine weapon, and he will never part with it. Fear of transformation is replaced by self-admiration, because now his appearance does not matter. Meanwhile, far away from them, another hero faces an insurmountable obstacle on the way to his goal. The great path to enlightenment turns out to be a ladder, and he was only able to build one step of it. Memories of the former glory of cultivation only highlight how far this world has fallen. The shocking discovery of one's new power does not give rise to joy, but to doubt and fear of the unknown. The ancient dragon's ghostly words become the key to unraveling his failure and imperfection. A desperate call to the ancient spirit goes unanswered, leaving him alone with his questions. Absorbed in himself, he does not notice how the world around him continues to live its own life. The unexpected return of a friend brings with it not only joy, but also a breath of foreign traditions. A simple question about holidays reveals the bitter truth about the plight of demonic beasts. Even far from home, traditions remain alive, reminders of the 5 years spent in exile. An innocent question about home opens a deep wound, because true home is the place where you were born and raised. The sad story of a lost home is overshadowed by sinister rumors about the plans of its former owners. The realization that home is more than just a place gives him a new determination to protect what is his. A sudden alarm breaks the silence as an ancient artifact warns of approaching enemies. The initial threat assessment proves misleading, and self-confidence gives way to mild anxiety. The weak signal turns into a barrage, and terror grips them as they realize the scale of the threat. The skies darken with the countless number of enemies, and it becomes clear that this is not just a raid, but an entire army. Fear paralyzes them, but something in the behavior of the enemies seems strange, and he calls for calm. The first wave passes by, but a second one follows, even more powerful and purposeful. They realize that they have witnessed the beginning of a war that threatens to engulf the entire world. The awareness of his weakness gives birth to a desire in him to become stronger in order to protect what is dear to him. A risky plan to hunt a powerful beast becomes their only chance to gain strength for the coming battle. The enthusiasm of a newcomer clashes with the caution of an experienced warrior, but the decision has already been made. The card points to an ideal target, a beast standing on the threshold of a new level of power. The amethyst thunder lion is not just prey, but the key to their own power. With the cultivators gone, the hunt becomes safer, and they send their smallest scout ahead. The beast's lair turns out to be a cave full of crystals, whose energy can be both a gift and a curse. The empty den does not stop them, and they decide to follow the trail, guided by scent and instinct. A sudden flash of battle in the distance suggests that their target has already found another opponent. They decide to intervene, as the chaos of someone else's battle could provide them with the perfect cover. The rage of a father who has lost his cub clashes with the cold cruelty of a predator. The irreconcilable feud between the two species flares up with renewed vigor, because now not only their lives, but also the future of their offspring is at stake. Someone else's quarrel becomes an opportunity for them, because in the chaos of battle they can profit at someone else's expense. Doubt creeps into his soul, because luck too rarely smiles on him in this cruel world. The strange wounds on the victim's body suggest that this could all be an elaborate setup. The realization of the trap comes too late, and now they can only watch in silence. The absence of human traces suggests a puppet, as only she could have pulled off such a thing. It becomes clear that they have wandered into the territory of a puppet sect, and now they themselves are in danger. Despite the risk, they decide to stay, because the mysterious puppeteer should not be too strong. The father's rage collides with the cold determination of a defender of his territory, and the battle rages on with renewed vigor. The oath of vengeance sounds like a death sentence, but even in the face of death he does not intend to retreat. A sudden flash of green energy indicates that a third, unknown player has appeared in this battle. A surprise attack reveals the insidious plan, and he realizes that they have been deceived and pitted against each other. A desperate order to flee becomes the last will of a father trying to save his children. The true puppeteers are emerging from the shadows, and their appearance does not bode well for anyone involved in the battle. The murder charge sounds like a death sentence, and the father's rage falls upon new enemies. The heavenly wood sword meets the beast's fury, and the first blow falls to the cultivator. The cold-blooded murder of innocent cubs for pills reveals the full cruelty of their plan. Even as an observer, he cannot contain his anger, because such cruelty is unforgivable. A new blade, woven from pure spiritual energy, appears out of nowhere, and he rushes to defend himself. Two mighty swords clash in a furious battle, and the air is filled with the ringing of steel. The unexpected intervention takes her by surprise, and she tries to understand who dared to challenge her. The order to retreat is met with disobedience, as the bonds of camaraderie prove stronger than fear. Even in the face of superior force, she is ready to defend herself until her last breath. A new alliance is born in the heat of battle, and now everyone gets their own enemy. Instead of fleeing, he accepts the fight, and the wild dance of the forest becomes a prelude to their battle. The spirit-destroying blade meets the power of the forest, and this battle seems simply ridiculous to him. A sudden blow pins him to the ground, and he realizes that he has underestimated his opponent. The true puppeteer emerges from the shadows, and rumors of his power turn out to be true. He enjoys his deception, because while they are fighting with the puppets, his true body is already close. An unknown attack from underground takes him by surprise, and he realizes that he has been trapped all this time. The divine shield saves him from certain death, but even it cracks under the force of this blow. The wandering roots become his last chance to hide from the enemy's eyes. The clue to the enemy's invisibility comes too late, and now he cannot escape retribution. Even under the cloak of invisibility, he cannot hide from the force that senses his presence. The shocking discovery that he has been fighting a puppet all this time leaves him horrified. Realizing that the enemy is too tough for him, he decides to simply wipe everything around him off the face of the earth. At this time, far from him, his faithful servant enters into an unequal battle with another enemy. The incredible sandblast technique suggests that his opponent is no ordinary demon. The realization that he has exposed himself comes with a crushing blow that leaves a huge crater. At the decisive moment, he unleashes all his power on the enemy, attacking with golden scales. The sudden disappearance of the enemy after the attack leaves him perplexed, because he was confident of his victory. Disbelief in one's own victory gives way to shock, as the defeated enemy turns out to be safe and sound. The realization that he was fighting only a puppet becomes a bitter lesson for him. The enemy's cunning exceeds all expectations, because he can swap himself and his puppets. The puppet's heavenly string becomes his weapon, and now he intends to take what is owed to him. The attempt to escape turns out to be futile, because invisible threads have already taken possession of his body. The loss of control over his own puppet comes as a complete surprise and humiliation to him. He understands that to win he will have to use more subtle and sophisticated methods. Blocking spiritual perception should have been his trump card, but the distance negates all his efforts. A decent catch is a consolation for this defeat, but the main target still eluded him. Enraged by the loss, he orders his faithful servant to prevent the enemy from escaping, no matter the cost. The master's order is carried out without question, and he rushes into battle to intercept the enemy. The incredible power of the attack at such a great distance shocks her, as it seemed impossible. The spell's power increases exponentially, and the rage from such treachery clouds her eyes. The earth rises against them, and a forest of piercing thorns was to become their grave. Even in the face of imminent death, she rushes to the defense, covering her comrade. He catches her in midair, and their retreat becomes a race against death. A new weapon is thrown into the chase, a stinking bomb that was supposed to stop their escape. The foul smell confuses them, but the true purpose of this attack is not to kill, but to humiliate. A sudden blow knocks him off his feet, and he realizes that the pills were just a distraction. Killen's fist crashes down on his face, and a cry of pain becomes the final chord of this humiliation. A contemptuous insult becomes the last straw, and he rushes into battle to defend his honor. A crushing blow ends the battle, and he manages to deliver the final fatal blow in flight. A cry of despair, full of grief and hopelessness, is heard over the decapitated body of the brother. Tears of helplessness water the cold earth, and she begs not to be left alone in this cruel world. Other people's grief only evokes contempt in him, because he is not accustomed to such displays of feelings. A sudden wall of fire blocks his path, and he realizes that this game of savior is not over yet. He sees in her eyes the same pain of unrequited love that once tormented him. Returning to the cave brings not only rich loot, but also hope for new strength. A generous gesture of gratitude cements their strange alliance, based on common purpose and benefit. Finding the long-awaited pill becomes a chance for him to achieve a breakthrough he never even dreamed of. The naivety and generosity of his new friend only make him smile, because he is used to being deceived. The rich loot left after the battle becomes his personal treasure. The precious pills promise him a long-awaited breakthrough to a new level of strength. An ancient jade tablet gives him access to wood elemental techniques, expanding his arsenal. But the main treasure is the knowledge that allows one to create puppets of unprecedented power. Confidence in his own strength fills him, and he prepares for the final push in his solitude. 2 months later, the heavens open and a pillar of light heralds a great breakthrough. Even one pill is not enough, and the thirst for spiritual energy becomes unbearable. In a desperate attempt, he absorbs the power of the spirit stones, risking everything for his goal. Finally, he reaches the stage of laying the foundations, and his body is filled with new, divine power. The light blue flame of true ki indicates a breakthrough to a completely new, perfect level. The golden scales that cover his body become a symbol of his newfound power. From the depths of his consciousness, an ancient dragon emerges to tell him the secret of truly perfect inversion. He understands that he will have to comprehend the greatest secrets of the universe himself, without anyone else's help. A new plan is born in his head, to strengthen his puppets in order to prepare for the coming battles. The first thing he decides to do is create powerful swords from the tusks of fire-ice elephants. The lack of a special furnace is no obstacle, because his own golden scales are the best forge. A week of agonizing polishing bears fruit, and he finally completes his creation. 2 powerful swords, woven from fire and ice, become his new deadly weapons. Even at this new level of strength, he struggles to control their power, realizing that he still has room to grow.